All right, geez, that's not right, is it? Let's change that a little bit. Let's change it back a little bit. And hello, Meg Leach. Hello, Dr. Abigail, you're awake. We are potentially being joined by Aidsy tonight. He was messaging me earlier, wanting to join. Just going to adjust the white balance. I think that's a bit better. Ooh, just a big surge of wind just now. Ooh, okay. Confusion. Okay, give me a second. What's in here? Okay. Okay, doing a thing. I want a coaster. Okay. All right. Okay, improvised coaster. Now, I made this tonight. Just improvised a big batch milk clarified cocktail. And it's so pretty. It's so very pretty. Hopefully it tastes good too. Just to use up the what do you call it? The cream of coconut I made and some things. Wow, it's my 5 head is really shiny because the light's different to when I set this. Let me brightness maybe. It's just flaring me out. I think for highlights. Brightness a little bit less again. I don't know. Just a huge, shiny expanse of my forehead. Oh, I have someone who I think wants a drinky.
One of those,
The old-fashioned?
Yeah.
Yes. Made this for our weekend away last week, and we didn't drink that much of it. We had a couple, but this is ready-made old-fashioned, made with... Do you want ice? It doesn't really need ice because it's been in the fridge. Do you like to have ice in the glass? All right. Well, I've got to do the whole thing for you. I'm going to get a peeler. Of course. And our orange, the donor, and the sword. All right, now I've got it all together. It's all happening. Gonna peel a bit of peel. Oh, did that one. Well, I just realized I should do it in a different order. Actually, can you get me my jigger from over there? No?
This one.
Yes?
This one.
Yeah. So yeah, tip out the water that's in it. Rinsing it. You probably don't want me to overpour you and get you rotten drunk or anything. No, so we'll just know how much we're putting in. And this is that the open jar of cherries? No, it's the closed jar of cherries. Hiding behind there, thank you. Oh, and it's just starting to run down a bit, so it's a fun little game trying to spear a cherry when they've got a lot of room to move around. Ah, got one. There we go. You go in there. And spritz a bit of orange over the top. Drop that in. Here you go. Little
Cool.
fruity gin old fashioned, made with, I forget if I used 3 or 4 different sorts of slow style gins. So, yes, Heine, you can hear Mimsy. She's just following Mrs. Angry around the kitchen, being demanding. So, moment of truth for my concoction I made on a whim. Fuck me, that's good. It's really good. I improvised this. Like I said, it was to use up the cream of coconut that I made. Wow, that's really coming through. I use that as the clarifying agent because you just need, although I call it milk punch, it doesn't have to be dairy milk. It just has to be something with sufficient fat content, which the cream of coconut has. And then I use this new make spirit I have, which is moonshine. It's unaged whiskey. It's the first stage of making whiskey, which I then aged for a couple of months in one of my barrels to give it a bit of color and different flavor, and some rum and some pineapple juice and orange juice. And it's friggin' yummy. It's really good. Oh, fuck, that is excellent. I also have no idea how alcoholic it is. 20%? Because, like, the new make spirit is quite strong. The rum's just normal strength. But it's got a lot of fruit juice. And so it's like half fruit juice. Yeah, I think it's probably about 20% alcohol, which is certainly enough to friggin' fuck you up if you have a couple of them. Justin, not stormy in your. It's not actually stormy here. It's just windy AF. Like me after too much Mexican food. Now I was doing something. Why was I coming over here? Whatever. Right. I just realized Aidsy may be expecting me to email him a link. All right, which email address is this? All right, so I have to open the other one. Yeah, fuck you, LinkedIn. I won't appear in any searches anymore because I've fucking hidden my profile because you're a stupid site and I never want to use you again. All right, no, so AZ hasn't emailed me. Justin, that's a reasonable strategy, stocking up on medical supplies in anticipation of catching COVID. Yeah, I think you just want cold and flu medicine, stuff that help bring down a fever and alleviate headaches and whatnot. Because that's basically all you can do for yourself when you get it. Because hopefully, like with me, it never gets worse than like a mild cold for you. But yes, if you have respiratory issues, it's, yeah, there's quite the risk of complications. But yes, in terms of looking after yourself, you just want stuff to relieve headaches and body muscle aches and pains, something that helps with a fever, and something that helps with congestion. Because I got super fucking congested. So yeah, just like, over the counter cold and flu stuff helped make life manageable. And in my experience, you want to rest a lot because you get very fatigued. Because your body is using a lot of energy to fight the infection. Same as you're really fatigued from the actual vaccine booster this week. That was my body using a lot of energy to create antibodies. And so I was quite fatigued. But yeah, you know, not having been subjected to complications, very happy about that. Man, I'm considering this was just something I improvised on a whim. It's really fucking good. I'm glad I made it. I need a stopper because I dropped the stopper for that on the floor. So that's a bit gross, but I have a bunch of other stoppers over here. Wait, where did I put them? That looks like a... Wait, no, that's the one I dropped on the floor. Or is that the one I dropped on the floor? Okay, well, that's a Starwood stopper. Does it have it's a Starwood bottle? I'll put the Starwood stopper in. Hello, Chris. I feel freer already now you're here. How are you doing? Yeah, Justin, the fourth shot seems very good at reducing the likelihood of serious illness, which is good because there's so many fucking variants going around. Some of them seem better than others at dodging your immune freeze. Oh, fantastic. The job. Nice. Nice. Cheers to you, sir. Man, I should like run a bar and make these drinks because this is fucking awesome. I've had milk punches, milk clarified drinks at a couple of bars, and they've ranged from good to really goddamn ordinary. You know, it's I guess it's a boast, it's a humble brag, or it's a big brag. I'm really fucking good at making clarified cocktails. I have done it a lot in the last, I guess, 2-3 years. So yeah. So Chris, your local Fox Independent station, hot market, people dream of working it. Nice, dude. Fucking yes. Yeah, Justin, a lot of the makers are sort of saying by the end of the year, or maybe sooner, like October, they reckon they'll have a vaccine that specifically targets variants. I'll be lining up. I will be lining up. Fuck yeah, dude. Oh my God. I am so freaking glad. Job of your dreams. And again, dude, you fucking earned it by being awesome. That is much deserved. And I'm so freaking glad, given the amount of stress you've been going through in the last year. That's just fucking great that you got this. Well deserved, my pal. Really glad to hear that you got it. So, cheers, bro. Man, holy shit, I could drink this all night. It's so good. Okay, so AZ is having trouble getting in, which means, yeah, he may not have the spoons to organize and whatnot. So we may or may not see AZ. Yeah, it is a great turnaround. And the drink is good. And I just want some variety tonight, so I'll make other things, but I could friggin' drink this all night. This is really good. But mind you, I've got this one now. Mrs. Angry actually wanted some of the fruity gin old fashioned. I might have one of them because it's real good. Chris, no, AZ is not okay. AZ has had a very bad 6 months, combination of really quite severe health issues. And I mean by AZ standards, okay? Like AZ's day-to-day existence is extreme health issues by most people's standards. But the last 6 months has been very bad, even by AIDS standard. He's got some really fucking gross, horrible shit happening to his legs. And he's also had situational stress. And that hasn't alleviated, I don't think. Although maybe it is. Maybe you'll come on and say the situational stress is gone. It's been about an extraordinarily troublesome person in the flats where he's caretaker. So both of those things have been keeping him sidelined for the last 6 months. Is why you haven't really seen him on the stream in the last 6 months, because he's been both physically and mentally overtaxed. So not been having a good time. And like I say, when you say AIDS's not having a good time by his own standards, that's some serious fucked up shit. Because his normal is fucked up shit for most people. So hopefully we hear from him, and hopefully he's going to say stuff's much better. God damn, that is good. Yeah, Chris, I think it would be very good if he got to come in, and I'm hoping he comes in and kind of says things are actually a bit more positive for him now, because he's had a real fucking tough time. 2022, not fantastic for AIDSy. Challenging times for all of us, really, but AIDSy's had some very specific challenges. So, hopefully we hear from him, and hopefully he's good. So I'm not doing a super long stream tonight. It might be longer than usual. Like I might go past 10. All depends. All depends who's here, what's happening, how engaged we all are, and whatnot. Not like last night. I for the first time in ages, party night went all the way through to 2 a.m. and I wasn't even tired, and I wasn't even legless drunk. I was definitely drunk. I was definitely Tim Smithed. I easily could have kept going, but it's just like, you pay for it. So I finished the stream at 2. Slept till almost noon, which is ridiculous. It's like I slept on the lounge. I sort of woke up and it was after 7, and I thought, Mrs. Angry's actually probably awake, so I won't be disturbing her if I go in the bedroom. And I heard she was actually having a shower, so I went in the bedroom and said hi and stuff, and then I put my headgear back on, my CPAP machine, and went to sleep. And fuck me, I did not wake up till after 11:30. Pretty wild. So Chris, you're on a diet. I should be on a diet. But yeah, okay. Cheat day. Have some good food. Nice. That is an excellent idea. So yes, I haven't sort of thrown away any the weight loss I achieved in the last year, but I haven't advanced anywhere. So I probably need to get serious again, because for a whole spectrum of reasons, I feel like I should lose quite a bit more weight. We'll see how that goes. And Justin, in terms of AIDSy having COVID, don't know. So if he joins us, he can answer that. I also just kind of realized, AIDSy being AIDSy, I should actually keep an eye on if I'm getting an email from him. But yeah, I guess I'm kind of thinking the fact that he's having trouble means that it's a struggle. Oh, Chris, did you miss my explanation? This is what I've been drinking. This very pretty thing. This is, I did a big batch milk clarified cocktail just on a whim. Didn't even do it for a video, didn't record it. Okay, strange nothings. Okay, you're getting the explanation too. Why clarify a drink? All of these things. Okay, so what was in this? I wanted to use up some coconut and pineapple juice. And I thought, I'm going to make my favorite clarified cocktail is a clarified pina colada using cream of coconut as the clarifying agent. So I just randomly did it. Like, so that has some new make spirit that I got and aged in one of my little barrels. That's quite high proof. That's quite high alcohol content. It's got some rum in there. It's got pineapple juice and it's got orange juice. I thought I knew stuff. I've got this, I don't know if anyone remembers my ridiculously large orange. I chopped that up and juiced that. And so it's got pineapple juice, orange juice, moonshine, new make spirit. You're just going to get something. Okay. You make spirit and rum. And then what you do, because to clarify a cocktail, the drink has to have an acid element. Citrus juice is particularly because so many cocktails have citrus juice. That's the easiest thing. But it's interesting, the things that have enough acid to curdle milk or something. Wine has enough acid in it to do it. Coke, like cola, Pepsi, that has enough acid in it to curdle milk. Coffee often has enough acidity to curdle milk. So you mix your drink up, whatever it may be, and it's got to have acid content, and then you add it to a liquid that has fat content. Dairy milk is the most common. It was coconut milk, homemade cream of coconut. So you add the drink to that, it curdles the milk, so it separates, and then you pour it through a filter. And it's not the filter that's doing the clarifying, it's the actual curds. The filter is just to hold the curds. And so this was basically murky, opaque brown. Yeah, brown spirits and fruit juices mixed. You know what that's going to look like. That's going to be a murky, muddy brown. And it's clarified so beautifully. What happens? So, for instance, if you're using dairy milk, it separates into curds and whey. The whey gets added to the drink. There's a whole chemical process that happens with proteins bonding and whatnot. And what the clarifying process tends to take out is the color and the more astringent tastes. And thank you, Abigail, for the absolutely appropriate pun. So the clarifying process takes out the color, takes out like astringent flavors, really mellows out the flavors overall, and it adds a slightly more viscous element to the drink, because whey is a bit more viscous than water, which is in the spirit. So you go from murky brown with very strong flavors to beautifully clear. And the flavors are like, okay, this one, and this is where it gets dangerous, does not taste like alcohol. There is a lot of alcohol in here. There's also a lot of non-alcoholic stuff. So yeah, my guess is that's about 20% alcohol by volume, which is not super high for a cocktail. A lot of cocktails are 20% or lower alcohol content. Like this one, because it's an old-fashioned, this is gin and a bit of sugar and a bit of bitters. So this is going to be 35%, 30 to 35% alcohol. And I'm going to have some, actually. Drink 2, gin old-fashioned. I'm just going to pour it straight into my glass. Fruity gin old-fashioned. The traditional English style is called sloe gin. and that's not SLOW, it's SLOE. And that's because it's gin flavored with slow berries, berries that come from a hedge. I think it grows like a hedge in England called blackthorn. So it's basically fruity gin. And I made this with a blend. I don't remember if I did 3 or 4 because I had a bunch of different fruity, slow style gins from different Australian distilleries. I used at least 3 or 4 different fruity gins in here. Fruity sugar syrup I had. The bitters, I think I used cranberry bitters because I was just keeping the whole thing fruity. And I'm going to treat myself now. I'm going to put a cherry in too because I love these Luxardo cherries. They're so friggin' good. Just got to spear one. Oh no, I accidentally speared 2. Oh well. That's the fates talking. And I put 2 cherries in my drink. You know, it's a tough call to make, but I'm making it. 2 cherries in my drink. We'll see how many drinks I make tonight. Wah, wah, wah. So what have I had? I've had my clarified one. I'm having my gin one. Might make a whiskey drink. Oh yeah, strange nothings. I am living on the edge. I might try and come up with another new one because this is my most recent cocktail book. Young Mr. Angry gave me this for my birthday a couple months ago. PDT cocktail book. New York Cocktail Bar, PDT, stands for Please Don't Tell. And it's beautiful. It's got hundreds of cocktails. It's got the story of the PDT bar and just random beautiful illustrations. It's like a moonshiner's car there. The illustrations are just beautiful. And again, they're not tied to the recipes. It's the one I showed last night. What's this one? Yeah, just random beautiful illustrations. I love it. AZ. No, KZ, you are being Mr. Silly. You do not have a link. It is absolutely not possible for you to get into StreamYard. It's so long since you've done this, you've forgotten how it works. You need to click on that link that I just put in, and then you can join in. A last word: Tanqueray gin, maraschino liqueur, green chartreuse, lime juice. Variation on another one: a lawn dart, tequila, gin, lime juice, agave, green chartreuse. A leapfrog gin, lemon juice, simple syrup. So we'll see. Yeah, so you need to click on the link that I put there. A left-hand cocktail. Whiskey, vermouth, Campari, and chocolate bitters. I might make that. Not with Campari. I don't have it. Campari's gross. Encore Genevieve. Brandy, maraschino. Pineapple juice. Don't want that. Tea. Cocktail with scotch, peated scotch, and tea. Goodness. That's a morning tea, isn't it? A lion's tooth. Dandelion infused whiskey. Sherry and chartreuse. Whiskey, cognac, Benedictine, shrub. A little bit country. Whiskey, lemon juice, maple, maraschino, Angostura. It's like a sour with Luxardo. Maraschino. Oh, wait, he's there. Sorry, you weren't there, and then I looked at a book, and then you were there. Hello.
Hello, sounds gay to me.
Yeah, no, there's a bunch of gay shit in here.
Yeah, you've had a haircut. You're looking good, man. I've had a haircut. I look fantastic. And I forgot to change my shirt. This is the shitty shirt that I was painting in today.
That's okay.
So you'll just have to deal with those years. Wicked man.
So good, bro.
Hello, yous. Thank you very much for letting me be on your thing, your device. I know that devices are hard to come by, and I know that letting me on your device is a great privilege. Sorry for burping during that sentence. I just rushed dinner so that I could be ready for 8 o'clock, and then the awkwardness happened. It said, you've got to make an account, and I did, and it said, okay, start a broadcast, but you've run out of broadcast time. And I went, good, but I want to start a broadcast. I want to be in Angry's broadcast because he's sexy and stuff, and all the people who talk to Angry are sexy and stuff, and all the people who join us are sexy and stuff. And so I thought, right, well, okay, just deal with this like you deal with the artificial divide between quantum electrodynamics and relativity.
Yeah.
At some point, they join up, but we don't know where just yet. So quantum physics has been tested to 7 decimal places, which you don't get in anything. And relativity has been tested to 5 decimal places, which you don't get in fucking anything. So we know they're both right, yeah? But when they get together, they go, you want to go outside? You want to go outside?
Yeah.
You want to go outside because you're a fucking turd. No, I'm going to kick shit out of you. And that's relativity. Because you've got to imagine that in a German voice. Do you want to go outside? We've done this before, you fucking American dog. We have put you up against many walls. So fuck you, you know? Especially you, fucking bongo drumming fuckster. I forget your name now. You dick. With your QED. It's not even a fucking word. Yeah, I can't speak German. I'm like a teller who hates Russians and wants to bomb them. How's my legs doing? They look like they've been hit with a cheese grater, which is awkward, Mega Leech. And it reminds me I've got to finish a couple more slices of bread and take some more Panadol, which is the painkillers that I've been given.
Yeah. And you're getting applause for the beard, which actually is more prodigious than last time we saw you.
Thank you very much. And it's a bit neater. I cut the neck beard part off and trimmed it a little bit and gave myself a little bit of lip shave so that I wouldn't have to strain my food before it hit my dentures. The trouble with dentures is be mohawk daisy. Well,
the haircut does
really,
it does look a bit like you've got a mohawk.
It does look a little bit like a moe. I said to the guy, I just need a little bit out the front, and he took it a little bit more literally than I thought he would, because I was thinking fringe. But I actually kind of like this.
That looks good.
I kind of like it. I think I might keep it. And I just put my elbow in my bread, so I've got to take 2 more bites of this.
That's fair. And okay, bite and think. Here's a question. It's a thinking question while you're chewing.
Yeah.
The CERN stuff, like they were firing up the super collider again. You know, changing reality again. I mean,
what do I think about the CERN stuff? All right, one of the things that was a bit disturbing for CERN was that there was a Russian group of scientists and an American group of scientists who came up with a thing that said, looks like there's no actual objective reality. And
that theory's
proved it
been
mathematically,
around for a while,
and we've proved it with experiment. And everyone said, well, that's bullshit because there's an objective reality, and I refuted thus, kick a rock. But then some Brazilians came in and said, we kind of did it too, and it works.
Yep, that was the recent one.
And everyone's going, well, that's kind of wildly fucked because without any objective reality, you have a problem because it means that everybody is
what's
basically sorting out
important?
their own reality.
Yeah, I was going to say what's important with taking this into account is that it has a very subjective meaning when you're saying there's no objective reality. It is essentially we are all just interpreting stimulus that's around us. And the phrase was used that, like, we may as well be in a hologram. It's as real as if we were in a hologram. Because the fact is, if your brain interprets a hologram consistently and gets consistent feedback, that's as real as our world outside of the hologram, in as much as all we're doing is interpreting chemical signals, essentially. And it's weird. No, just say it's weird.
And the other thing is that it looks very, very much like that all we've got is consensus over measurement. Right? So we say, oh, this is a meter. And it doesn't matter how big or flat or round or tubular your meter is. As long as you say it's a meter, it's a fucking meter. And if everyone agrees that it's a meter, you can send people to the moon. Now, the thing about that is you start to get into areas of thought. And this is an issue because thought becomes awfully, terribly worse to try and quantify. Your brain has, and neuroscientists and astrophysicists go outside conferences and punch on about this all the time. The brain has so many connections in it that, sorry. The brain has a finite amount of neurons in it, and they have little spiky fingers at the end, right? And they fire off into synapses of other neurons. But the way they connect, the pathways they take are often different, and they have been counted up. And it is basically thought that there's more connective possibilities than there are stars in the universe.
Well, stars in the Milky Way is what, because again, stars in the universe, the answer is probably infinite, in as close to infinity as a human can't calculate. But certainly, stars in the Milky Way is the phrase that's often used.
And some of the neuroscientists say, because of the way it's set up, it's essentially infinite. And the astrophysicists are like, fuck you, put your glass down. And they go outside, and the biologists are going, no, don't, stop it, don't.
It's kind of like, there's a line in that objective reality thing. There's a line in 1984 where Winston's being interrogated by the party guy who he thought was his friend. He's just going like, dude, why are you trying to find out the truth? The truth is what we say it is. Like, if I genuinely believe I can float above the floor like a soap bubble, and you also genuinely believe I'm floating above the floor like a soap bubble, then that's what's happening. If our perceptions match, then that's happening. You can sit there and go, that's not possible. You go, but if we both genuinely believed it was happening, then it's happening.
All I can say to that, sir, is there are 4 lamps. There are 4 lamps.
Four? I'm sorry, I don't get the reference.
That was a Picard thing out of Next Generation when he was tortured by the Cardassians.
Not that familiar with
and
Next Gen.
He was being tortured, and Cardassian said, What if I said there are 5 lamps instead of 4? And they really got in his head. He was not a happy boy. And then finally they came to rescue him and said, you've got to let him go because he's kind of, a starship captain. And
Dr. Abigail got it. Yeah, unsurprisingly.
Thanks,
As did
Dr.
Strange
Abigail.
Nothings. There were a couple of Trekkies picking it up.
Yeah, I thought Dr. Abigail might pick it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are 4 lamps. If I agree and you agree, then we have a convention. If we have a convention, then we have enough of an objective reality to send people to the moon.
Yeah, and that's what physics does. Physics measures it and says, look, sure, maybe reality is not objective, but I can measure stuff a million times and get the same result. So I'll just roll with that.
Time, right?
I'll roll
every
with it.
single time.
Yeah.
I can get the same result.
Yeah.
And you get out of this some very freaky shit indeed. Okay. And one of the things that is, it's not actually very secret, but it's just not very well publicized, is part of the Majestic 12 experiments. We know they were real. All the documents have been released. We know they were real. Was they did a thing called remote viewing. Right?
Oh God, this is the CIA shit. Sorry, yeah. This is MK Ultra, and I think most people have heard of MK Ultra. The CIA literally spent years and millions of dollars saying our psychic power is real.
Right? Now
that's the short version.
They pumped something to set it up. They pumped something like $55 million into a thing called remote viewing, and then right up until the 90s, they were pumping $15 to $25 million into remote viewing every year, right? After they said they'd shut it down in 1983.
Oh, fun fact. They've admitted to it all now. The documents are on the CIA website. You can go on the CIA website and see all the documents from the shit they were doing in the 60s. It's a hoot.
It's all there. And by the way, they said, oh, no, we've shut down the remote viewing. That's not a thing anymore. Okay. Except that the Russians are pumping in the equivalent of $20 million every year. Even when they were going through the worst of their post-Soviet times, they were pumping $15 to $20 million into their version of remote viewing. They called it it was a bit different. They called it subjective
Remotsky Vyuski. That's what they called it. I know my Russian. It was Remotsky Vyuski.
Yeah, Remotsky Vyuski for Russia. They call it subjective change through mental means and other physics. They had this big long name for it. It's weird. Like usually the Americans have the long names, but this time the Russian had the long name and the Americans had just remote viewing. Anyway, they said they shut it down in 81, except that a year ago somebody dropped a budget paper, and last year they pumped $25 million into remote viewing. The farm is still operational in Arizona.
Again, very good movie.
They did stare at goats, Abigail. They fucking did. They really
very
did.
fucking good movie. Also became one of the best internet jokes I've ever seen. Every now and then there'll be a Twitter challenge like ruin a movie by adding a letter or removing a letter, and you're trying to come up with what's an existing movie title, add a letter or remove. And the absolute winner of the internet was the person who suggested there should be a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goatsy. And
of course. I was going to say it writes itself. It says, please
There were a
Please.
bunch of good ones, but the men who stare at Goatsy was
Goatsy,
just
yeah.
okay. It's over. Switch the internet off. That's as good as it gets.
It's Rule 37 has been reached.
Oh yeah.
The silicon limit has been reached. So
Yeah.
last year they pumped $25 million into remote viewing. It's not over. They're still doing it. Here's the weirdest thing about remote viewing. Okay, the weirdest thing is that Obsidian stops it. That the most sensitive places in Russia and America that they don't want remote viewers walking into have obsidian walls or obsidian shields, like shards of it around the room, and it actually stops floaters coming in, and they can also
gonna look hella cool. If your secret lair is built out of obsidian, gonna look hella cool.
Well, they actually
black stone.
They just sort of stick it in the walls, right?
Yeah.
The idea being is that what happens is the walk-ins come in and then they shut the door, right? And then some guy with some machine, and I don't know how this works. I have no idea how this works. Just goes, oh yeah, it's not military. Just let him go. And the people apparently who've been stuck in these things shit themselves because they can't get out. You're never obviously away from your body, but if your consciousness is made to feel afraid, you'll do stupid things. Like I've done some stupid things when I was angry. I caught my girlfriend fucking someone else. I'll just say it, and was furious. I was just going to go and check on her and say hi, make sure she's okay. And she's fucking someone else. I was furious. So much so that I manifested for a little bit. And they thought they saw a ghost and freaked. And I started to walk home in the Bathurst cold. And I was going, what are you fucking doing? You're not even here.
You were just angry. You were angry,
and it was like a snap, and I was back. And then I rang her up and said, "What the fuck?" And we had a 4-hour conversation, and I was frank and loud. And the 4-hour conversation stopped when a man that we both know called Camo said, "Az, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I need to sleep. So do you. Stop." Yeah. And I went, "Yes, Camo, you're right." And in the morning he said, so are you going to drop in on your friends again? And I went, yeah, no, I'm not. Because he said it's a bit like opening a lady's handbag. You are always going to be disappointed with what you find.
Yeah.
And I have taken that piece of wisdom to heart.
Yeah. Sorry, you know what you just made me think of when you brought up, and this is the absolute in joke. This means nothing to anyone but us. His sick brother's name. I don't know if you remember the Sick Brothers. His sick brother's name was just Smeggy. Everyone else who was in the Sick Brothers had a first name and their surname was Sick. His name was just Smeggy because that's all he needed. And these were guys we knew at college. And they had a thing whenever they met anyone who spoke a different language, they would just say, like, how do you say Sick Brothers in your language? And they got the stage where they knew how to introduce themselves as the Sick Brothers in 20 languages.
In 20-something languages,
it's
yeah.
It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous shit you do when you're at college.
And at some point during the evening, they would always sing Have a Mom Cream. Have a Mom Cream, Dan, Makvalua, ho, ho, ho.
Side note, Camo on rare occasions actually comes into the stream and says hello. I think if he knew you were going to be on, because I didn't know you were going to be on when I put the description for the stream. If I'd heard from you a little bit earlier and said you were going to join, there's a pretty good chance Camo would have come on and said hello.
I didn't know I was going to join. I had
no, it was pseudo spontaneous. It was after 7 that you started messaging me.
Oh, we won our legal battle.
Oh, that, yeah, okay. So I was telling the folks before you came on, you were having physical health fuckery for the last 6 months, but you were also having psychological fuckery, and any regulars knows about the guys who's been fucking you. So that's done? That's done?
It's over, baby. And
which is, I guess that's one of the reasons you're
who
joining
I know
us.
very well, who shall remain nameless, who is very big and tall.
Yes.
In a not way. Basically has been saying, we got rid of a fuckwit in the middle of winter. He's homeless. Because he laughs when things die.
This would be the big man who gave us semi-nude massages on New Year's Eve live stream.
No,
a different one. Okay,
no,
you know, a different tall
the
person.
other big man who doesn't like to be on screen.
Oh, right. So that figurative big man as opposed to literal big man. Sorry,
literal
again,
big man.
I've just thrown out some gay shit that people may not understand, but people who know the lore, LORE, of the Angry Aussie live streams, when was that? Like 5 or 6 years ago?
5 or 6 years ago. No, it was more, because it was before I moved in here, and I moved in here in 2013. So it had to be 20.
Yeah, that's like 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, we did a live stream, and AZ and I, and look, it was
New Year's Eve.
At New Year's Eve, we were getting fucked up, and the big guy was there, and he's going like, you guys are tense and need a message. And he had his shirt off, and he's got a shaved head, and he told us we had to take a shirt off. And so we've taken our shirt off, and he's rubbing oil into us. And I think there was someone on the stream who didn't know us very well. He's going like, this is looking a bit gay. And I'm going, look, if me having oil rubbed into my naked torso by another semi-naked man is gay, I don't know what the world's coming to. It's just...
And it was. And then he started screaming Milton for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, he did a whole thing. That was also the night you were found on the roof, wasn't it? That was not a stream.
That was a different night. That was the night that I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning, having pissed myself on the couch. And people going, I'm not going to watch this stream anymore. I've just watched someone asleep on the couch. He's just pissed himself. And it was 2 hours before.
Right. We just left it going, and you were asleep on the couch.
I was talking, and then I just crashed out. Yeah. And
God, we have done some weird shit.
But another night in that same house,
yes,
I woke up on the roof because the big guy and his girlfriend at the time said, "Oh, AZ must have left early this morning. Oh, he must have gone and got drugs because I was on a lot of drugs."
that was that part of history, yeah.
And I woke up on the roof. Now, remember, I am arthritic and can hardly move most of the time, right? I woke up on the roof naked with a sunburnt back, and I woke up and screamed at the birds to shut the fuck up because I was trying to sleep. And then I noticed I was on the roof, and the big guy and his girlfriend came out and said, AZ, yeah, why are you on the roof? Yeah, I don't know. I've been asleep. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, you want an interlude? This is a 1.5 minute interlude. This is to give people a visual. If you want to know about the guy who was massaging, this was a video we did, 12 years ago. Okay.
Right.
So I'm just going to share this. This is a fun little 1.5 minute interlude. Where are we? Tab, this thing. Okay, so there's that. I'll full screen it. And I'll do that, and I'll switch off my microphone.
In many and indeed most cultures, the killing or assassination of enemies is sanctioned and sometimes even encouraged in their warrior traditions. For example, the Bushido holds that the warrior is as a cherry blossom, brief, beautiful, and doomed, comparable to the beliefs of the Amerindians whose mantra of "today is a good day to die" propelled the warrior into a state of selfless focus and allowed him to kill guiltlessly without fear of death. Consider the desert assassins from Arabia and Africa. Their technique was to become the wind and the sand, assuming an elemental aspect similar to the Shaolin monks whose reverence for life is suspended while they were a force of nature. Of course, in a lot of cases, such as the Incas and Aztecs, killing became ordained, made holy by sacrifice, and a sacred duty, as with the chivalric Knights Templar, a vigil of prayer and fasting is observed before the killing, making it a de facto church execution, thus guaranteeing absolution from sin.
Me? I kill cunts for money. It's shitballs fun as!
Yep.
We came up with that concept in like 5 minutes.
5
in your
minutes.
shed
I
in
think
the
we
old house.
all wrote it.
Yeah.
And I voiced it.
That's
and I
you
wrote,
voiced it, and I pitch shifted it so it didn't sound like
so
you.
it sounded low,
Yeah.
and I wrote sort of half of it, and he put in
Yeah.
other stuff, and you put in bits and pieces, and we
Yeah.
just did it. And I just kill people for money. It's shitballs fun. He's actually bigger now, because he's a swordsmith, and his muscles are as big as a house. And
damn, yeah.
during the legal hassle, the individual came out and threatened my life.
Yeah.
And well, he came into the balcony and abused him. Like, he can throw you through a fucking wall, right?
I know. And would do shit like that for fun. And this is also a dude who joyously seeks chaos. Like, he would get in really fucked up relationships and would going like, dude, you're making a mistake. And he's going like, but it's so exciting when you get involved in things that are totally fucked. And we're like, no, dude. What? Get therapy. Why are you doing this?
Crazy sex is crazy, but you get to have the crazy after the sex.
Yes. And I've had one full on, and I don't think you even met her because it was pre-YouTube. Between mother of my children and Mrs. Angry, there was one relationship that lasted for a year or so. And that was a fucked up time in my life. And it was the classic, like, yes, crazy sex is wild and crazy, but the crazy continues when you're not having sex. But yeah, he fucking embraces that shit. We would all say, like, why are you doing this?
Why are you doing this? And
he is an agent of chaos. It's
keeps doing it. He just keeps fucking doing it.
I
don't want to fucking
no, because again, D&D people make jokes.
He just did it recently again.
Yeah, no, he fucking lives for it. D&D people joke about being chaos. Like, if I play D&D, unless I'm doing something just as an exercise, I'll be chaotic good. That's my alignment. Wow. My personal thing with D&D, the alignments, the first part is your relationship to laws and authority. So the first part is either lawful, neutral, or chaotic. So lawful is you think hierarchy and rules are important. Neutral is you're neutral. Chaotic is fuck the system. The second part,
on the 1%,
the second part is your relationship to life and morality. So there's good, as in you think life should be protected and people are good. Neutral is like, well, shit happens, and evil is like, well, you're a piece of shit. Like the Nazis were lawful evil. They were very much into hierarchy.
Yeah, they really were.
And they were into fucking killing people. You get like paladins in D&D. They're lawful good. They're weird hierarchical motherfuckers, but they want to protect the underdog. I was always chaotic good. I'd be like a thief character who's like, fuck the man, but like I'm also nice to people.
That's right. I like
if
your
you're not
shoes.
if you're not the like king, I'll be nice to you. But yeah, our man there, he's not evil. He's not. I think he's probably chaotic neutral.
I'd say
Yeah,
that's fair.
he leaning towards good because he's mostly a good guy,
Yeah.
but I think he likes to roll the dice. So I think he's probably chaotic neutral.
Yeah,
He
likes to
loves
roll
rolling the dice.
He loves rolling the dice.
Yes, and Dr. Abigail, that is the voice of a D&D player. Paladins are lawful stupid. Yeah.
Do you know?
Damn. Yeah.
Go on.
I was just say our man Safa has
Yeah.
actually tested positive for COVID. He's in a house alone at the moment, so
Safa,
he's jumped in.
I am with you, brother.
Yeah.
In spirit. I'm not going to talk to you or come near you, but
because you have the plague. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been told. I've had 4 shots.
Oh, that was the question. So you haven't had COVID?
No. They think I might have. They think I might have had one of the mild ones.
Yeah. Well, I had it, and it never got worse than a cold.
Right. Because you know how there's heavy ones and light ones. Oh
yeah. Oh Jesus Christ.
And this fucking Omicron variant has spawned. Yeah. They know there's 3, but they think there's like heaps more Omicron variants.
Oh
and one of the doctors came up and said, "We think you've had an Omicron variant because there's markers in your system."
Yeah.
That basically follow the pattern of the they follow the pattern of the vaccination, but there's little differences. There's little tiny differences.
Yeah.
So we think you might have had a dose, but you wouldn't have noticed, and your rat wouldn't have come up with
because the rats are only about 60% accurate.
Well, I hear different numbers all the time with the rats. The basically what I hear, the most wise thing I hear about the rat is if you get 2, go in.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling like shit, and you only get 1, still go in. And declare the moment you get to the sticker station. Declare. But effectively, they think I might have had a light dose. Jason, fuck. Mr. Aidsy had a shot and was on his ass for 2 days.
I had my 4th shot this week, like on Tuesday. Wednesday, because I'm working from home. Wednesday, the whole day I was going, oh my God, I'm fucking exhausted. Like my body was putting all its energy into producing antibodies. And I was like, I laid down for an hour in the middle of the day.
Wow.
I was fucking exhausted.
Well, I've been exhausted for a long time, and I couldn't work out why, because I've been doing everything right.
Yeah.
Our big friend, he made me a cauldron of soup. Because he said, I don't like the food that you're having. Yeah. And I went, okay. Good. And he said, I'm going to make you some soup that's going to fix you. And it's going to be a broth. I went, okay, cool, man. Jewish penicillin is the best thing you can have for anything anyway.
Chicken soup,
And basically, this broth is as thick as chocolate pudding. It's not broth. It's like you put your hand, you spoon it. You can turn the spoon upside down and it'll stick. But it's got pulled pork, pulled lamb, and pulled beef in it, which just melts as soon as it touches your tongue.
Yeah.
He slow cooked it for 4 days, and there's every kind of veggie you can imagine.
Oh, man.
It's just fucking awesome. and he's got like containers and containers of his stuff in the freezer. And I've
Nice.
always got one or two in the freezer, and I drag
Nice.
one out. And
Nice.
that was what I was scarfing down before I came on.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
And then basically when I tried to get on, it tried to make me a member. And then it said, I'll start a show. And I'm going, no.
See,
I want to get
that's
on
the
an
thing.
English show.
It's so long since you've been on, you forgot how to join, because you used to always send me an email that said, and I'd go, here's the link.
That'll be it.
Yeah, so you just need the link. You don't need to install StreamYard. You just need the link, and it's a browser thing. Mrs. Angry makes soups. Holy shit, she makes good soups. She made a very mushroomy, garlicky one today. Fuck, it was good.
Yum. I used to love garlic with the passion, but since the chemo, I can't have too much.
Now I just want to the story we've told a lot of times, but okay. So Aidsy and I went to the same place at college, did the same course. My last year was Aidsy's first year, and we hung out, we did shit. But then I didn't see you for ages, and then about somewhere between 12 and 14 years ago, I bumped into you at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. I was standing in line for a show. You were directing a show that was in the next room. And so we went to Virginia, and we've sort of hung out since then. And then I explained YouTube to you, and we started doing YouTube stuff. So one time, because Aisy's famous in Canberra, in middle of winter, I'm like, I'm going to drive Aidsy to Canberra. We're going to hang out in Canberra for a while. And I made road munchies, and I made what stellar fucking kick-ass wraps. And they had like garlic and pesto and cheese and shit in them, and they were great. And Aisy's like, not me. And so I'm eating them as I drive, num 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 num, because they were garlicky. And so I burped and did a rather dinner. And Aidsy had never actually explained to me after the chemo, garlic was so deadly to him, he was going to die. And so I didn't know. And so now, because I've burped in the car and we're on the highway to Canberra in the middle of winter, it's fucking freezing. Had to have the windows all the way down, or Aidsy was going to die.
And when people burp, I gag. It's before the chemo, never, but after, when people burp, I gag. And he had this like blue cheese and
yes, it was blue cheese and garlic and pesto.
Blue cheese and garlic and pesto.
Deadly.
The burp was just particular,
humans.
and I just went, "Please stop the car! Please stop the car!" And it did. I opened the door and hug, and poor old Angry's going, "The fuck," and I'm going, "Okay, so there's this thing." And so we had to have the fucking windows down while this poor guy ate his fucking sandwiches, which was really nice. And I just felt like a total.
It was hilarious because
you know what I felt like.
Killed him,
and
killed him with this burp. And just...
you know, the other funny thing is, occasionally when we all get together, we go to Nando's. Nando's is a great restaurant.
Nando's is awesome.
Great food.
Chili.
I can't hang there for more than 20 minutes because the chili in the air gets to my eyes and nasal passages, and I start to feel a sting in my eyes, and I go, "Yep, time for me to go and have a break." And so I'll bail.
Your chili allergy would literally kill you, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we've had that
so
because we used to do. We used to do the YouTube meetups at Fed Square, and there's a Nando's across the road. So people would go, "Let's go to Nando's," and Aidsy's going, "Well, I'll join you for a while," and just till the chili in the air got to you and you had to leave. It's fucking wild.
And I'd go outside for 15 minutes and clear myself, and then come back and join everyone, and it'd be fine for another 20 minutes. But then I'd get diminishing returns. Like I'd go out for 15 minutes and clear, and then I'd come back for 15 minutes and have to go. Then come back for 10 minutes and have to go, and then come back for 5 minutes and have to go. And by that time, usually everyone had finished their Nando's, and I was not rubbing my eyes, and tears were streaming down my face. Right?
Yeah,
Oh my
'cause,
God, I
yeah,
went to
you've
great
been to this
place.
great place, AZ. Yeah, they roasted so much chili. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
Could you
Wow.
imagine if Abigail's having that reaction if they had done that while you were in there?
I can. I can also imagine the ambulance going, well, you're so close to Vinny's anyway, why don't you just walk? Well, because he's on the ground and his face is swollen and he can't breathe. We're
Yes.
thinking
Dead
giving
man
him a
walking.
tracheectomy with a biro and a knife. What do you say? And they would say, yes, do that. Hasn't he got an EpiPen? Let's just do the hospital action first.
Holy shit! Yeah.
There's a donut burger place down the road from us, and Mr. Azy took me there because they were having, you could get a free donut and a free burger. He loves free food.
Dude, who doesn't love free food?
Yeah,
I'll
but he's
eat stuff
like,
I don't like.
he's like a
it's free.
tight ass in extremis.
Dude, I go to the supermarket and people say, what are you getting at the supermarket? I say, well, it depends what's on special. Like, particularly with those stickers, like when something's on its last day before it's past its best buy, so they can't sell it anymore. I'm going, guess what? I found shit half price. That's what we're having for dinner tonight.
You know what Mr. Azy did once? He got himself a manky salad. Right. He's going,
oh,
yeah,
God, I know this story. Yes, go.
Right. And he's going, yeah, I'm fucking going manky salad. He's been taken along to the supermarket and the fucking thing exploded. And I laughed my dick out. I just thought that was the best and most appropriate thing. Because I always hassle him for eating fucking off food because I can't.
Yeah.
I can't eat things that are even sort of close to the use by date because my immune system is so fucked over by the chemo. Don't have chemo. Seriously. Unless you've got cancer, leave the chemo alone. I was on chemo.
Do people just randomly have chemo, AZ? Do they just like walk in and go, I'm bored. I'm going to go get some chemo?
Well, they fucking bug chase AIDS.
People are strange. Yes, you're correct.
Fucking, I might as well fucking chase chemo. I was left on the chemo for 5 years and it fucked me over really badly. My eyes.
Sorry. I now need to throw into the conversation. I've seen the photos of AZ when he was getting this, and first he got very bloated, and second his skin kind of turned green, so he looked like our second wave lesbian feminist lecturers at uni, but with green skin. So I just refer that to AZ's fat lesbian stage. Because he was a dead ringer for the lecturers we had at uni.
I really was. And I was grumpy enough for them too.
Also, I'm just going to throw in, I've said this before, they loved me, hated AZ. AZ got so much. I was the golden boy for some reason. Hated this guy. He was public enemy number one.
Was they hated me because they heard somewhere that I was bagging out lesbians, right?
Which was not true.
They thought that I was homophobic. And then years later, I was in the Pride March with my then boyfriend and girlfriend. And they said, what are you doing here with the T-shirt on? And I said, well, I am a card-carrying member. I am sort of allowed to be here. And, these two people have given me the Hellion hello right back and I've got hello Queen Kirst, you gorgeous thing.
I think you'd like this one too, AZ. Sorry, Alexander. Story works gives away free stuff. So it's like, I'll grab it. I don't know if I'm eat it or if I'm going to die. Oh, okay. Speaking of COVID, Kirsten and husband both have. So we're the fucking COVID stream now. Safa's tested positive. Kirsten and husband have tested positive. Man. And yes, Safa, Hulk mode. Big, bulky, and somewhat green. I've seen the pictures. And he's very sort of swollen and bloated with a distinct green pallor.
And what I did, because I was still trying to be a comic, at that point.
Yeah.
Was I dyed my hair electric blue. And
To
the
distract.
idea was that people would think the green skin was just a shadow effect from the blue hair, and it fucking worked. It worked.
I don't know why
for
people say
years.
you're stupid. That's a smart idea.
I am stupid. And I'm stupid enough to do a lot of stupid things.
So that was
stupidest thing
you get the reference though, because I mean you're only a little bit younger than me. The endless F Troop repeats on the ABC in the 70s. The
Yeah.
running joke, which I loved to death, the NCOs, the sergeant and the corporal was Agarn. I forget the sergeant's name, but the sergeant was smart and Agarn was a bit of a fucking idiot. And they'd be coming up with a scheme. They were the scammers of the fort.
Yes.
And they'd come up with a scheme, and Agarn would say something, and the sergeant would go, "Excellent idea. I don't know why people say you're stupid." And then there would be a couple more scenes, and like a couple minutes later, Agarn would just go, "Who says I'm stupid?" It was just a running
It was
joke.
really well timed. It was actually really well timed.
They were such
because
good comedians.
They'd drop it in.
Yeah. Because
not
the
at
sergeant
the
would
same
say, "I don't know
time
why
every-
people say
every
you're stupid."
week. It
Yeah.
wasn't every week that they drop it in on because they played it daily, but they wouldn't drop it in at exactly the same time. He'd have to. He'd click and go, "This is I'm stupid," and it would come out of nowhere. It would just
and
drop
there's a
in.
huge delay. It was
Right.
because if the Sarge just said, "I don't know why people I don't know why people say you're stupid," and if his immediate response was, "Who says I'm stupid?" that would be funny.
It would be
but
funny. I
he
think
would-
they
the
did that
Sarge
a
would
couple of
say-
times to throw
Yeah.
us off, but then
Yeah,
it was always like a minute or two.
a
would go
minute later,
past
yeah,
and go, "This is something stupid."
It was
And it was
just
usually
priceless.
while they were planning something, or there was a briefing from the big boss,
And it
or
was
something
unrelated.
was
It was
happening.
always
going, and it was
unrelated.
always
like other
unrelated,
stuff
and
had
you
happened.
go, "This is something stupid," and everyone would just sort of
God.
like start doing floor inspection.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, but what did we get endless repeats of? F Troop,
Monkey
uh,
and Doctor Who.
oh fucking Doctor Who. Jesus, just before the 7 o'clock news, we got to see Doctor Who so many times in the 70s.
It was great. And you know what I really dig was the fact that we got to see Monkey heaps of times. And the first episode of Monkey, the Black Demon goes into his cave, shuts the door, and Monkey says, "Come out here, Black Demon, you poofter, come out here and fight." And he never swears again in the whole series. Because Trippy
Monkey
Tucker
called someone a poofter once. It was
it was the first episode. It was the first
Yeah.
episode. It was the Black Demon. "Black Demon, come out here and fight. You poofter, come out here now." And
and it was so fast, it kind of snuck by
it just sort
you.
of blurred through. And that was when Trippy Tucker was going, "This guy is just too much." Peter Cushing,
Left
Doctor
field.
Who.
The cinema up the road from me,
Wow.
and so that's Doctor Who and the Daleks and Doctor Who Invasion Earth is going to be remastered in the cinema soon. Safa sent it to me on Facebook. I'd already seen it because I'm on the mailing list for the cinema. Also, COVID's so out of control at the moment, I'm not going to a closed room with recirculated air filled with diseased people. But it does seem pretty cool seeing. I've got them on DVD. I've got the Peter Cushing movies on DVD. But yeah, seeing them in the cinema does sound like fun, quite honestly.
What I thought was brilliant was one time they did the 5 Doctors, and they got Peter Cushing in a bubble to talk to the 5 Doctors. And the reason they got him in a bubble was that he was so sick that
was
he
Hartnell,
couldn't.
not Cushing. Hartnell was the TV doctor. Cushing.
Yes. It was Hartnell.
Yeah, it was
Hartnell.
Hartnell
Sorry.
was too sick to actually be on set. So
to
yeah,
be
he was
on
locked in
set.
the time
So they
bubble,
got him in his sick bed, and they put a they didn't have green screen back then. So what they did was they masked They used to do a thing called backmasking, and not backmasking. It was
But
they used to
he was
paint
just on a little monitor and whatnot. So
right, and they used to paint the set on glass. Yeah,
oh my
and
God.
they
Yeah.
used to put the actor in front of behind the glass and put the glass right up to the camera.
Yeah.
And so he was in his hospital bed, and they took all his wires and they put him in a long coat.
Yeah.
And they got him sat up in bed, and they angled the set rotoscoping perfectly so that he was in a black bubble. Like a black screen and a bubble.
Yeah. And he's
so
saying
you
he was
couldn't see
trapped in a
anything.
time bubble or something.
He was something like 90 something when he did it.
Yeah,
and,
it was not long before he died, actually.
Yeah. It was, and all the actors just went, dude, fucking champagne work, because he nailed his lines first time. The other guys didn't. Other guys didn't, but he nailed his lines first time.
Yeah.
And old school fucking theater guy. Learn your lines.
I remember flicking through Foxtel streaming classic movies, and I just saw the cast for a movie, which was an old Elstree, which was an English movie production house from the 30s to the 60s, I think. And just looking at
it,
it was like
they filmed Star Wars there.
That's true. Star Wars was done in Elstree, yeah. But I just saw the cast, and William Hartnell was in the cast, and I go, well, I guess I'm watching this now because I want to see. And it was actually about 5 years before Doctor Who, but it was just like, some weird old movie and William Hartnell's in it. Well, I guess I'm watching this because I need to see it now. Because he was also in The Mouse That Roared, I think.
Yeah, he was in The Mouse That Roared.
Again, that was a weird. There was a joke about wartime reparations, and so it was some small European country whose economy was fucked, and they just said like, well, if we get involved in a war with a
huge country and lose,
they'll have to give us reparations. And so I think they invade England at some point. It is a very funny movie. If you ever get a chance, it's from like the 60s or maybe the 50s. It's called The Mouse That Roared. It's got Peter Sellers and William Hart. It is a weird fucking movie. It's very funny. It's just
very funny.
Really weird.
They invade. I think it is England. England looks and goes, "Why are you doing this?" And then they bomb
it
some
makes
shit.
No sense. It's great.
Right? They bomb some shit, and England goes, "No," and splat. Right?
It's
splat.
So funny.
And then they turn up and go, "Well, you've destroyed our economy, and you've destroyed our means of survival."
Yeah.
And they went, "You make cheese, and you get tax on smuggling. That's your economy." And they said, "Well, yeah, but you've destroyed it, so you need to pay us reparations. Otherwise, we will become a tool for the Iron Curtain just to get closer to you." And they go, "Right, how much do you need?" Quite a bit, as it turns out, because they were also in debt. I think that all started because
it's like they had no
massive
economy.
debt.
They were fucked.
Like
now
they were.
I'm looking it up. Sorry, I'm looking it up now. You keep talking.
I think they were in like massive debt, and they're in massive debt to the Americans and the Russians, or the Soviets and the French, and it was like, oh, we're in shit here. And they were making money from smuggling everything, and people and everything, and cheese, and the cows weren't producing enough cheese to fulfill their orders, and that was a problem because everything was going to fall apart. And so one of their politicians, I think it was Sellers, came up with the idea of let's get war reparations, and everyone went, "What?" And
it's so weird. I'm sorry. I'm just looking it up. It was based on a novel. It was a Cold War satire. The
Yeah.
novel was published in 1955. The
Yeah.
movie was made in 1959. Yeah, it's got Sellers, William Hartnell. I'm looking at the cast list. There's no one else I really recognize. The Duchy of Grand Fenwick, the smallest country in the world, is nestled in the French Alps.
It was basically a piss take of Liechtenstein.
Liechtenstein was the model, and it was a Cold War thing, and it was just.
And in actual fact, Liechtenstein did actually make its money from being a free port. What they would do was they would allow goods and services to go into their country, and then for amount of tax, then go out to another country. A lot of countries had trade embargoes, especially the Soviet Union, especially NATO, and Liechtenstein said, "No problem. You want to flick something over the other side? Give it to us first."
Well, it's kind of like Switzerland being neutral, and it's kind of like, I'm sorry, do you want to put Nazi gold in our vault? We'll do that.
No problem.
Neutral sounds good, like we're not going to get involved in war, but it was also like, oh, are you a war criminal who wants to hide your assets? Yeah, we're neutral.
Worries.
We'll do that.
Portugal was the same. Everyone called Portugal in the Second World War a nest of spies because everybody went to Portugal to basically check out what the other guys was doing, and everybody's spying was run from Portugal. And
also Ireland in the Second World War, because people go like, oh, why was Ireland neutral, or why were they saying vaguely positive things about Hitler? It's like, because Hitler was going to destroy the British. Ireland had been on the end of centuries of oppression and genocide.
Thousands
from
of years of oppression.
So if someone was going to fuck up the English, why would the Irish not go, yeah, he might be okay?
Well,
Same as India.
Gandhi, I was going to say Gandhi said the same fucking thing.
Yeah, India was super pro-Hitler because it's like, oh, he wants to fuck up England. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. Fuck up England.
However,
hundreds of years of oppression.
The treatment of Indians by Hitler soon changed Gandhi's mind. And
yes, but there was a period, that whole Aryan thing and the mysticism, which some people overstate, because you get a lot of stuff where people think Hitler was an occultist and whatnot. And there was some truth in that, but there were people who were in the orbit,
Himmler and Hess were the occultists,
who ended up in India and definitely started cults in India. Like the current fucking PM Modi his political party is a pro-Nazi political party. They existed in World War II as active supporters of Hitler. But again, it was because this guy says he's going to fuck up England. Okay, I'm kind of on board with that.
The thing that bothers me, Angry, and it really does actually bother me, is two things, right? Is the United States makes no mention at all, ever, of the 4 million people that were in the German Bund in the United States.
Christ, the American Nazis, Jesus.
They make no mention of that. They make no mention of the fact that pretty much a quarter of America turned around and said, well, Hitler's against Jews and blacks. I'm against Jews and blacks. I'm on board with that.
Dude, I got a bit naughty. I think on about day 4 or 5 of my isolation, I snuck out after 10 when everyone was in bed and I was doing streams, and I snuck out and got some beverages and did it. But not drinking alcohol while you're fighting COVID is
the go.
Good idea. Good idea. I have to admit, it was like day 4 or 5 I weakened, and snuck out when everyone else was in bed and got some beverages.
I should have done that. You did that, and I did that, and I fucked it. The thing about the German Bund was that it was big and powerful. Ford was a member.
Ford was such a fucking Nazi. Henry Ford was such a
Nazi. Fucking Disney was a Nazi.
Yes, Disney loved him. There was that great Simpsons from one of the very early seasons of The Simpsons. But they have their equivalent of Walt Disney, who make Itchy and Scratchy. I fucking forget what it's called. Someone help me out. But it was like the original guy who's obviously Walt Disney, and there's Trent McClure is narrating a documentary at Itchy and Scratchy World, where he's going like, there's all these great films with the slight misstep of when he made the film called Nazi Supermen Are Our Friends. It's just yes, well, that's Walt Disney.
Eventually, Walt Disney got told by the American government to pull his fucking head in. But the Ford Motor Company had 5 factories in Germany, and they made trucks for Germany. They made cars for Germany. And at the end of the war, Ford sued the American government
for bombing their factories.
Loss of business and for bombing their factories, and fucking won.
Yes, but it wasn't Chuck Ford, the head of General Motors.
Well, GM jumped in after
to Germany. They said, we're making money, and what's good for General Motors is good for America. States.
Now, they fucked themselves up a little bit, because after Ford won and after GM won, the Jewish Reparation League said, so you made money out of Germany, did you?
Yes.
How were those trucks made? Were they made with slave labor? Because we think they were. The records that the Germans kept assiduously show that
the Germans loved keeping records.
They were. So we would like you to pay us a shitload of reparations.
Yeah.
Now, what eventually happened was they pressured Bill Clinton into saying, yeah, this trial's off. This is not going to happen. This is off. GM and Ford got together and said, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And Clinton basically had to buckle because they put, $100 million at his head. And he had just brought the budget back into balance after not senile Reagan had put them something like $500 billion in debt. He had brought the budget back into balance. And, of course, no one remembers that bit. They remember that he got blown by a fucking
I'll be back in a sec.
intern. So it bothers me that no one remembers the American Bund. It also bothers me that the first time the Japanese were stopped in their advance across the Pacific, it was the Australians who did it in New Guinea. And eventually the Americans went to help them in Buna and the northern coast of New Guinea. And the first group of Americans that went to help the Australians and face the Japanese ran away. They were in place, and in the Second World War, you could still see your opponent. These days, you just can't. But in the Second World War, you could still see your opponent. And the American battalion just shut themselves and ran away. That has been basically written out of history. But there was enough Australian veterans to go, we were surprised when our American cousins put their packs off, dropped their rifles, and fucked off. We were also a bit dismayed that we were now once again facing the Japanese on our own. But by that time, the Japanese were having a lot of troubles getting supplies in because they were being interdicted fairly well by the American Navy and the Australian Special Forces. And the PT boats. The PT boat crews, one of them, of course, being piloted by the president who got shot, who was the guy who put the moon missions together, who was the young fellow who was a Catholic.
Werner von Braun.
No, the Catholic president.
Kennedy.
Kennedy was the captain of the PT boat, and he was instrumental in helping interdict the supplies to the Japanese that stopped them at Burma. The Australians pushed the Japanese back to Burma on the northern coast of New Guinea, and the Americans came to help them. And the first time the Americans actually faced the Japanese at Burma, they ran away, and that's been written out of the history books. But there was enough Australian veterans there to go, we were surprised when they ran away.
No, there was a whole thing, and you get the Dakota Trail.
They ran away. What's that about? And the American generals came and abused the Choco soldiers for not doing more to push the Japanese back. And again,
just
the guy was nearly lynched.
I always want to throw in the Japanese advance through the Pacific. They fucked the Americans. They hit Singapore and fucked the British. They hit PNG and were going to come in and fuck Australia. And our reservists, because all our hardened combat troops, most of them were in Africa, some were in Europe, and these were fucking reservists. They were the first people to stop the advance. They were the first people. They inflicted the first defeat on the Japanese Imperial Army in 10 years. And these were fucking reservists.
And conscripts. Chocolate soldiers.
Conscripts and reservists.
And they basically shut them down going up the Kokoda Track. I don't know if you've ever seen the Kokoda Track. I will never walk it. I wanted to. Yeah. But I will never go there because
it's a very tough track, apparently.
And the Flying Fox was invented for the Kokoda Track because they had to get cannon over mountains and up mudslides. Yeah. And it wasn't really going to happen until they figured out if we get donkeys to carry them up a little hill and then slide them down a bigger hill, we can get this done pretty quick. And so they had Flying Foxes going both ways. They also had the help of the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels, who were the local people. And the local people were a bit each way because remember the white folks had treated them like shit for a long time. Yeah. And they were, the white folks were going, we might have fucked up here because the Fuzzy Wuzzies might turn around and kill us because they can, because they live in the jungle and we don't. Yeah. But then the Japanese came through half of New Guinea. I'm not saying Papua New Guinea because Papua is the lower half of Papua New Guinea. New Guinea is the top half of Papua New Guinea. So they came through New Guinea and raped and murdered a lot of people.
They had that, again, white people definitely had this racist thing about black people can take more pain, but the Japanese had super racist ideas about how much pain non-white people could take, and they would torture the Pacific Islanders. And so, again, the native people who were colloquially known as Fuzzy Wuzzies went, okay, I'm not super sure about these white people, but these Japanese dudes are literally kidnapping, torturing, and raping our people. So
we will help the white people.
We don't like them.
We will fuck them off. And the white people very, very quickly found this is why they got the term Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels.
Well, Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels, yes.
Because they found that these guys were hardcore.
And would save them.
They would fucking find food when there was no food to be found.
Yes.
They knew stuff. And they had more stamina than anything. And they were strong. They were so strong. these guys would push over trees, and
Yeah.
boys would come up and say, "I want to join the fight," and they said, "Well, you've got to be an adult," and they went, "We have no. How old are you?" I don't know. Old enough to hunt birds.
Yeah, it's like, how
Okay.
many summers have you seen? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, how many summers? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so the rule then was the rule came down. Has he got hair under his arms? Yep, he's in.
He can fight. Yeah.
And they would,
Jesus.
and they got taught how to use rifles. That was an issue. They said, "Oh, I don't know about giving black guys rifles because that might end up badly for us." No, it didn't. It ended up very badly for the Japanese, because the Japanese would be sitting in camp and suddenly people would just drop from gunshots that they didn't hear.
Yeah.
That's a long way away.
Yeah.
In a jungle with lots of trees in the way. So if you can find a line through trees and hit someone, that's terrifying. That is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like, where did that come from?
Yeah. I remember reading an account from an American veteran because, they came through after the Australian Chocos turned the Japanese back, and then it was progressively push them back through Singapore, back through, and eventually back to Japan. But this American serviceman who basically didn't want to talk about what happened in the Pacific Theater because it was dark and fucked up, because the Japanese Imperial Army did terrible, terrible, terrible things. And so the people of PNG, the Philippines, Australians, British, and Americans kind of did terrible things in retaliation.
There wasn't they did do terrible things.
One I remember, this American saying, like, because he's coming up like the Kokoda Trail through PNG, and there's an Australian, and there was a guy hanging from a tree who had a rope around his ankle, which was tied to a branch. And the American says to this Australian who's posted there, like, "What's that?" And he goes, "That was a sniper. He was up there for a couple of days. He has the rope, so if he fell asleep and fell off the branch,
fall off the tree."
He killed a bunch of our guys. We got him eventually. And the American says, "Is he dead?" And the Australian says, "I don't know," and gets his rifle out and shoots the guy hanging from this tree in his leg. And the guy screams, and the Australian goes, "No, he's not dead yet."
No.
and the American's just going, what the fuck happened here? And it's just basically because this guy saw his friends getting killed by this guy, and he's like, "Oh, fuck this guy.
Fuck this guy."
Him.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in war. When and again, like, you hear like, Nazis terrible stuff. You get weird people who are like Nazis apologists, because you had the Americans and the British Empire forces coming up through, but you had the Russians coming from the opposite direction. People say, "Oh, the Russians did all these bad things in Germany," and it's like, yeah, because the Russians had been fucked over so badly. They definitely did shit that you could call war crimes, but it was in retaliation for war crimes. Again, not a good thing, and I do not defend it. But war
makes people into animals. It makes people into horrible animals, and you always see after wars the combatant sides usually getting back together, and going, "It's done. It's finished. We're going to eat together. We're going to talk about the battles, because we can't talk to anyone else about the battles because it's fucked up, right? And no one will get it. No one will get what happened.
People who've been in the shit, basically,
will understand. You see, you hear about Australians going to Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia all the time and talking about,
the Australian experience very different to the American experience. But anyway.
Well, there's this great fucking story that I love, right? Okay, so
brief interlude. I do want you to tell a story because you have some good stories. But brief interlude. I'm going to have another alcoholic beverage. You, my friend, are going to choose. I'm going to give you I'm in the mood for a whiskey drink. I'm going to give you the name of some whiskeys, and you should tell me the whiskey that I
To
should use. So I'm going to read a couple out here because I have a lot of whiskeys over here.
Shall I tell this while you're doing this?
No. Step one, I'm going to tell you some whiskey names, and then you tell me which whiskey to make a drink out of. Then while I make the drink, you tell the story because I've got a vibe. Okay, so we have this is a rye whiskey from Melbourne, a fortified cask whiskey that's 52% alcohol. We have the Archie Rose Red Gum Smoked Single Malt Whiskey. Dude, you've got to fucking come over here and we should do a whiskey tasting one time. But we've got the Archie Rose High Test Molasses Rum Cask Single Malt Whiskey.
Fuck off.
We've got the Archie Rose Whiskey Gone Awry, which is a rye whiskey. We've got another gospel one, a single cask, 48% rye whiskey. We have the Starwood Solera, that's just a standard one of theirs. We've got the Tim Moon aged in a port barrel whiskey.
Oh, come on.
We've got the Starwood Unexpeated. This was aged in a peated Scotch whiskey barrel. We've got the Starwood aged in Hungarian oak, 50% alcohol. We've got the Starwood Tawny aged in Tawny port barrels, 48% whiskey. Now we've got some American ones. High West Double Rye Whiskey from Utah. We've got West of Kentucky Bourbon. This is a bourbon made in California. 47.5%, so 95 proof. And another one I got just recently, Starwood's Sticky Toffee Apple, 48% aged in apple brandy barrels. So
you're not making this easy, brother.
I know, dude. At some point you have to come over and we just do a fucking mad whiskey tasting night and get absolutely fucking scuttered on it.
I think that's the correct answer, and and also a prediction of truth.
Yeah.
I have made a decision.
Yeah.
It's the red gum.
Red gum. Okay. Yeah. This is okay. So that's a smoky
red
whiskey. So what they have done, when people think smoky whiskies, they often think of peated Scotch whiskies, and that the smoke flow from the Scotch. So, all right, where is my? I need a little bit of light because it's a low contrast thing. I need a bit of light on this. So I'll read you the description from the bottle. The first in a two-part series, this single malt crafted with local malt that's been roasted or smoked with wood from native red gums. Tribute to Australia's majestic eucalypt trees, whiskey offers heady flavours, redolent of campfire smoke, smoked meats, ripe nectarine, fresh jasmine, and lavender. So it was distilled in 2019, aged for 3 years, and I got it this year. There were only 2,000 bottles of this made. I've got bottle 730. Oh, the cask. Okay, it was aged in Australian Apera. So that's the Australian version of port. Port got made a protected name sometime in the past.
Yeah.
Kind of like champagne has to come from the Champagne region of France.
And
port
has
to come from Portugal. So all the Australian ports, which had been made since the 60s or 70s, had to rename. So they call them Apera. 50. Oh, dude, you have chosen a 53% alcohol whiskey for me to try.
Okay, yeah, it's the red gum. smoke and in a port barrel.
And it is.
I'm
It
on.
smells like fucking campfire. It's great.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Are there any bottles of
Dr.
Starward
Abigail, is
Octavia
Starward
available?
Octavia available?
I don't know.
So, yeah, Octavia.
We looked for it.
Octavia was a limited Starward thing. It was the barrels were a very high-end Australian wine.
We looked for it in Ashwood, and they had some, but it was gone. This guy,
Yeah.
I mean, it was there, but this guy had bought the case, and we said, "Well, you can't just buy a case." And
single malt too.
He'd plonked $400 down on the table and said, "That case is mine." And I said, "Well, yeah, that case is yours." So the staff got a tip.
Yeah. I think I did have the Octavia. It was very good. It was like single malt aged in high-end rum barrel. Sorry, I'm just going to look up Starward. I kind of think the Octavia might be sold out.
I think it's gone, man. I think.
Let's have a look. I had a bottle, and that was always funny. Like the one time, my stream got raided by a very popular Twitch streamer, and they saw all the booze on the things behind me. And one of the questions, which was a logical question, it's like, what's the rarest thing you have? And I go, okay, you might be thinking rarest means I paid thousands of dollars for a bottle. And yes, Megalichi was Jenkins 420, top dude. And his people were remarkably good. Like there were thousands of them on this stream. And I think when someone asked, what's the rarest thing you've got there? They were thinking I paid thousands of dollars for it. He goes, no, some Australian distillers will do a one-off that costs between $120 and $150. And there's only from a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand bottles. And when you drink it, that's it. It's gone. That never exists again.
And it's not even because they're trying to gouge like a shitload of cash. It's just because they don't have the capacity. Like it's just not. They don't have a town in Scotland to make fucking scotch. They've got like a factory space in Fitzroy.
These guys are in South Melbourne, like Starwood are in South. Sorry, and also Dr. Abigail, I just looked it up on the Starwood site. Octave barrel, single malts, 48%, $150 is still available. And that is kind of at the upper limit of what I'll spend on something. It was very good. I had it. It was very good.
But you expect a good single malt to sort of go for around there?
Holy shit. I fucking... there was a thing advertised to me on Facebook, and first I thought it might have been a scam, but it was essentially buying shares in an Australian whiskey producer. And these particularly guys, they're called Bakery Hill. They are in country Victoria at the moment. They were doing a fundraiser to move to Melbourne Metro. They're moving to Kensington. And I you know what? Fuck it. I did it. I had some money. And they were very open. It's like, you should only invest money if you can afford to lose it and not suffer hardship. It was like, you know what? I've managed my money very well for the last couple of years. So I'm now a shareholder. I'm a shareholder in the Bakery Hill. And these guys are fucking serious, man. They were like, we are doing serious.
Hang on to those shares.
Like
hang on to those shares.
Yeah. Most Australian whiskey makers age the whiskey for 3 years. Bakery Hill tend to age their whiskies from 5 to 8 years. So they are fucking serious. And so I'm now like a VIP for having done this investment thing.
Yeah.
And
hang on to the shares, man.
And because it's kind of like if they get super successful and because Australian whiskies are hitting the world stage big time at the moment, and one of the big international distillers says we want to buy them out. It's like, fuck you.
Thank you.
So I don't know, 5 to 10 years from now, those shares might be worth a lot.
Remember your mates.
They hit their maximum. They did this thing, and it was like at $1 shares, we will sell a maximum of 700,000 shares, and they hit it. So basically, they have raised $700,000 to open a new distillery and cellar door in Kensington in Melbourne Metro. And because I'm a VIP, I now get discounts if I go there, and I get special invites to stuff. So as soon as that's all finalized, I'm probably going to get one. But anyway, now Archie Rose, red gum smoked single malt. I'm going to make an old fashioned, but first, oh my God, it's just like, it's fruit. It smells like, it's like orange and cinnamon. And again, you know how sometimes when you, because this is, like I said, 53%.
Don't drink it all before I get over there.
Sometimes when you smell something that's high alcohol, it like burns your nostril hairs off. I'm just no burn at all. It's just like, it's like orange and cinnamon and smoke, campfire smoke, like really top quality smoked meat smoke. So I'm going to have just a sip of it straight. Dude, seriously, when we get... Oh, can you hear that knocking noise? It's the sliding door to the kitchen. Mimsy's deciding she wants to come in. And she's just... Sorry, I'm just going to go here. She's banging on the door. Shut the fuck up.
Oh, well, you know, at least cats knock. You know, a lot of cats knock.
Say hello, maybe. All right, so... Dude, I've got like 12... incredibly fucking good whiskeys over here. Most of them are Australian. I've got, here's Mimsy saying hello. Yeah, I've got one Scotch, one Irish whiskey. I've got one American rye and one American bourbon. Because I'm basically a slut for Australian whiskies. And yeah, Kirsten, I did actually sound out Kirsten and said, basically asked, are the Bakery Hill people trustworthy? And she'd met the son that goes there. So, okay, Archie Rose, red gum.
I've heard of Bakery Hill, dude.
Yeah.
I had some mates go out there.
Yeah.
And they said they had to book a room.
Yeah.
Because they were only going out for tasting and come back. Yeah. And they said they had to book a room halfway through the tasting because they knew they weren't coming back. They said they left the car there. Hey, I was hope you're not too pissed.
What happened on Twitch? No, I'm kind of half pissed at the moment. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I told you. Me and Mrs. Angry last weekend, we went up to Healesville to visit the Four Pillars Gin Distillery. Now, these are people who spent COVID doing this massive build of a new venue. And it's fucking huge. And so we went up to Healesville for the weekend to go to Four Pillars. And while we were there, we said, what's else here? So we just like did the Google search because you're in the Yarra Valley at this point. Distilleries in Yarra Valley. We found a small one. It was a winery that had started making gins. And we went there and you did the whole tasting thing, some of their gins. That I got their sweet vermouth because that was on one of the tasting paddles and it was very good. So we had cheese platters and gin and vermouth. And they make vodkas as well. Their vodkas were kind of interesting. Then we went to Four Pillars, which fucking rocks. And then we found one that was on our way back. It's kind of like halfway back. It's actually right next to Puffing Billy in Belgrade.
Wow.
Called the Killick Distillery. They do rums. They specialize in rums. That's only like 40 minutes away from where I live.
They do rums in Victoria.
Yeah, no, it's really fucking good. I did a tasting platter of their rums and it fucking kicked ass. Again, this is another thing. Maybe one day when we're a bit more mobile, I want this current wave of COVID to go away before I go to places again. But maybe in summer, maybe in summer we could do a trip up there one time and do a their rum's fucking kicked ass. Okay,
You know, I
but
can't
Natty,
drink rum.
can't you?
Ginny's foul.
Okay, no, Banathi, I get what you're saying, and I get why you might think that, but I'm not sure where you are, but a lot of independent Australian distilleries do gins
Very
that fucking kick
different.
ass.
There are some gins that are very different to other gins.
Yeah.
There are some gins that you taste, especially a lot of people will put tonic with gin.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Gin.
it tastes like, like fucking dishwater.
Yeah.
But there are some gins which you can have on their own.
Or-
Bombay Sapphire.
Okay. No, okay. I won't. Again, Bombay Sapphire is not terrible, but I just go for Australian ones. There are really good distilleries here in Melbourne. There's Archie Rose in Sydney, where Kirsten works. I've just got. I won't buy a gin that's not from an Australian distillery at the moment because they're so fucking good.
This is. I hear you and I agree with you. I'm just saying to Bonathy, if you want to step into gin, step into the English gins that are good, then step into the Australian gins. If you step straight into the Australian gins, you're going to hit yourself with a taste that is just alien to you.
But Nathy, I need to know where you are in the world to suggest you a brand, because where you are in the world influences what I do.
It's very important.
In short, my simple recommendation would be find an independent distiller where you are. Oh, Jesus, Bonathy, you're in Victoria? Oh, dude.
You're in luck.
Fuck you are? Like
you're
here
in
in Melbourne, Melbourne ones are Patient Wolf or out on the Mornington Peninsula, the Bass and Flinders ones, Archie Rose in Sydney. And yes, Kirsten is personally responsible for me understanding how good Australian distillers are. Banathi, in Victoria, any of the independent distillers in Victoria, Four Pillars in Healesville, out in Geelong. Who's out in Geelong? Anther? The Anther distillery in Geelong is fucking awesome.
There's another one out there too.
Oh, there's a bunch of them out there. And yeah, Kirsten's saying there's a couple distilleries making rum. There's Jimmy Rum out on the Mornington Peninsula. The Archie Rose have made rums. The Bricks Distillery in Sydney make good rums. Holy shit. Yeah, so Kirsten, at the start of COVID, I had hardly or possibly no Australian spirits in my collection. Now half my collection's Australian. It's amazing. So yeah, out Geelong way, there's the Anther Distillery and the Bellarine Distillery. Water? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. He's sitting on my lap. I'm going to get some water for a member of the household. But yeah, there are basically independent, because gin you can make instantly. If you decide you're going to make rum or whiskey, it has to age for years. But gin you can make instantly, basically.
Angry.
Yeah.
Would you give that member of your household my email?
Because this is the member of the household who.
Yeah, because I've got to ask
recommendations.
that member of the household some questions about some changes that are happening in the anime world that have gone awry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Banathi, you're near Bellarine. You want to go... My personal recommendations, go to the Bass and Flinders Distillery.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do gins and brandy. Their brandy is very good as well. The Jimmy Rum Distillery, obviously, is doing rums. There is some really fucking good stuff in Bellarine. And yes, Kirsten, there's a lot of distillers in Victoria.
Yes.
All right. So, okay, I haven't actually tasted the... on AD's recommendation, I've done the Archie Rose Red Gum Smoked. And, oh my God, it's it's barbecue smoke, and it's like there's orange and cinnamon in the aroma. It just smells so. And for something that's 53% alcohol, it's not burning my nostril hairs off while I sniff
Which
it.
is really special.
Oh my fucking God. It's just drinking it. Again, it's for 53%. It's so smooth. Because I'm a bit of a wuss. If something's like really harsh, I'll cough
If it's
and
harsh,
stutter.
you just can't enjoy. If it's burning all the way down,
Oh.
you just go, well, you know, why don't I just drink grappa?
Yeah. And that's smoky and cinnamon. Oh, it's bacon. There are like it's smoked meats. It tastes like smoked meats. It's bacon and smoked ham. Oh my God. My mouth is having a party. And Lee's here too. Yes, Bass and Flint. Oh, sorry, Mornington. Thank you, Kirsten. I got confused. The two peninsulas in Melbourne. Bass and Flint is in Mornington. Banathi, you're near Bellarine. So Bellarine, you want to go to Anther, and you want to go to oh God, what are the dudes? And they've started doing whiskey now. I think it's actually just called the Bellarine Distillery. But yeah, Mrs. Angry and I went there a year or so ago before their whiskey was out, and we just did their whiskey tasting, their gin tasting. They do fucking great gins. Now their whiskeys are out, and because it's their first release, they're still kind of expensive, so I haven't tasted their whiskeys. But the Bellarine Distillery make fucking kick-ass gins. And it's a whole spectrum. They make some like the Navy strength one, which is really harsh. There's one, I think they call it Teddy and the Fox. It was a good one for people who think they don't like gin because it was a really mellow entry into gin. Also, not gin or whiskey related, the Flying Brick cidery. Flying Brick cider is possibly my favorite cider, and that's on the Bellarine as well. And their mascot is a black cockatoo. Oh, look, Banathi, give it a go. It's an adventure. Visit the Anther Distillery in Geelong. They're also lovely people. And the Bellarine Distillery. And just for a change of pace, I'd also throw in the Flying Brick Cider Company. Great place to go to. Oh yes, Great Ocean Road Distillery in Queensland. I've had a couple of gins from Great Ocean Road Distillery. Also good.
Have a designated driver, Banathi.
Yeah. Okay. Banathi knows Flying Brick. Yeah. I fucking love Flying Brick. That's possibly my favorite cider. And because they do a whole range of ciders from sweet, dry, and medium, and they'll do seasonal one-offs and whatnot. Nettie saying hi to AZ.
Hey, Nettie. How you doing?
Oh, Kirsten is also saying there's a couple distilleries around Lorne, Apollo Bay and Flow State. So yeah, Banathi, you should absolutely check out. Just go on Google and search distilleries near me. And in fact, I found the people at the Bellarine Distillery really good. If you went in there and said, look, a friend of mine said I should try out your gin, but I think gin is like shit. What can you give me that will convince me your gin is good? I think they will give you one that will work for you. Because I never thought I'd be really into gin. And again, largely
because when we were kids, right, what they do is they get some Gordons out, then they put a shitload of tonic in it, and all you taste is the tonic and this alcohol based, and it was like tacky.
Yeah.
But then later on, when we were adults, we got some good gin in us. Myself and a friend finished off a bottle of Bombay Sapphire, and because the guy who owned it was having, do they call it Free February or Dry February or something? It's the month they have after New Year's to dry out.
Yeah. And
But,
some people say dry July just because it rhymes.
Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, you're either in control of your drugs or you're not. I know this through personal experience. And, look, what people don't understand is that alcohols come in a multitude of different flavors. When they say Scotch, okay, what's the most important thing is the rocks that the water flows over.
Yeah.
To
you get radically different flavors from different Scotch whiskies
to make the distill happen. Also, they put flavor in. They get the barley and they malt it. And what they do is they trick the barley into thinking it's spring, and it sprouts.
Yeah.
And they do that by smoking or drying in a way, but they usually smoke it. And they smoke it with different woods, and they smoke it with different flavors, right? Yeah. And that flavor plus the flavor of the rocks that the water comes through, because the water's got to be pure. It's got to be spring water. And in Australia, you've got to cite this is why there's so many distilleries in Victoria, because there's a lot of springs in Victoria. You've got to cite your distillery on a spring, and the water's got to come across usually different types of granite or limestone, and you taste the different rock in the water. I know that sounds weird, right? But remember, there's only 5 elements to go in a whiskey: malt, yeast, water, barrels, and time. Of course.
And the water is a big thing. That is a big. There's a thing. People would first talk about it with wine, but a lot of spirit makers refer to it now terroir, which is the spirit of the land, and that's the water. The water you use has a big influence on the flavor of the spirit you make.
Yep. Big time.
And yes, Kirsten also says it's the skill of the distiller. It's an art and a science. It's an art and a science.
You know what? In Scotland, when there's a new distiller that takes over a distillery, like the head distiller retires and chooses the new head, right? Yeah. What they both do together, is they put down a barrel that is a 200-year barrel.
Yeah.
Okay. There is nothing like the pressure of putting down a 200-year barrel.
It's like it's a Zen thing. There's that whole Zen thing about the man who plants a tree under whose shade he will never sit. That's the thing with distillers as well. The person
they know.
Those
guys know. In 200 years, people will crack that barrel, right, and drink that whiskey and go, "This was a master distiller," or "This was a failure." And the new distiller makes that barrel under the watchful eye and helpful advice of the old distiller. It's the passing of the torch. Yeah. But it's a big time torch. It's a big time fucking deal. Right? And that barrel sits next to the other 200-year-old barrels, and the names are on those barrels of dead men and dead women from years ago. And you go, my name is next to these fucking gods. And I'd better come up. I'd better come up to the bar. I'd better come up to the same raised bar, because you drink that 200 year, you steal, the whiskey thief. You whiskey thief out of the today's 200-year-old barrel, and you just go, oh my God, they knew what they were doing back then. I just hope and pray that I know what I'm doing now. And with that attitude, whatever else they make out of that distillery has to come up to that standard. And that's the point. The point is to go, I have pride in my work. I have care about what I do. This has got to be valuable to the people who drink it. This has got to be an experience. This has got to take their endorphin levels to a new place. It's got to be a story in itself, right? It's not just to get pissed on. You can, and you probably should, but it's got to be a story of time and land and nature and skill. And have you guys ever got to try Pappy Van Winkle?
Pappy Van Winkle is an American bourbon thing. Okay, I'm going to say a potentially controversial thing, particularly to Americans. I think Australian whiskies are more complex and interesting than American bourbons. Pappy Van Winkle is a rare and popular thing. I also want to throw this out. Safa was asking about is the stuff that's in the yeast that's in whiskey, is it alive? So does the yeast die for the sake of beer or gin or whiskey? And Kirsten says yes, a delicious sacrifice.
It does die. Whiskey is made out of beer. They call it beer. It's not beer that you drink.
No, it's the first phase. The mash build is kind of technically a beer, but you wouldn't drink it. Then you distill that, and that's a new make spirit. And
his name's on my barrel.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and Kirsten also agrees Australian whiskies, particularly the single malts that come out of Australia, are much more interesting and complex. I find American bourbons nice, but they're a bit raw and thin compared to the complexity of, because bourbon has all these rules about you've got to age it in new barrels and whatnot.
It's got to be new.
And Australian whiskies are like, barrels. I can use whatever the fuck barrel I want. It might be an ex-bourbon barrel, might be an ex-wine barrel.
The Australian distillers have really taken their lessons from the Scots, and the Scots go to Portugal and France and Spain, and they buy old port barrels, and they buy old wine barrels, and they buy old muscat barrels.
Yeah.
And they will do things like put Scotch in the port barrel for 3 years. Then they'll put it in the muscat barrel for 5 years. Then they'll put it in another port barrel for 5 years. Then they'll put it in the oaked hogshead and leave it for 20 years.
Dude, sorry. I made an old... You chose the whiskey, the Archie Rose Red Gum Smoke. I just made an old-fashioned. So just sugar syrup and some Angostura bitters, and I am in fucking heaven. It is so fucking good.
Brother, I'm proud to have helped you.
Probably the most recent whiskey I bought, Starwood, Melbourne Distillery, brought out a limited one where they'd aged the whiskey in like American apple brandy barrels, and they call it sticky toffee apple whiskey. And it's very nice. And I made my own sugar syrup, an apple sugar syrup, basically sliced up apple, covered it in sugar, and the sugar leaches all the juice out of the apple. I made an old fashioned with the Starwood toffee apple whiskey, my own apple sugar syrup and bitters, and oh my god, it fucking killed. It fucking killed.
I can imagine. Imagine.
Yeah. Oh, here's a fun thing. I've read about this, and I think these guys are Victorian. They've come up with a technique which they're keeping secret,
very secret,
that they call rapid aging. They can make a whiskey that tastes like it's been aged for years, and it hasn't. And I have read also there's a bit of a move in Australian distillers. It's like, okay, so Australian whiskies are making huge inroads around the world. We should probably come up with some consistent rules that if it's going to be labelled,
well, because the Scots going to turn around very shortly, and
yes,
go,
yeah, that's them. Good Reggie, yes, Mountain Distillers Red Gum, yeah. The guys at the Good Reggie. Apparently, it's a very tasty whiskey, but they've got some secret process that rapid ages it. So in the next couple of years, Australian distillers might agree on rules. If you're going to call something an Australian single malt whiskey, it has to meet the following rules, and that would include aging, I think. So, yeah.
I think it might. And also, too, I think the Scots are going to turn around and say, especially since when Australian whiskey hits Japan, it's going to go off. And Japan is a massive buyer of whiskey.
Oh, absolutely. They're so into it.
They cannot get enough of that. And when Australian whiskey hits Japan and China, the Scots are going to turn around and go, yeah, you can't call it whiskey anymore because the Irish have to spell their whiskey differently. The Scots spell their whiskey differently. The Canadians have to call it Canadian whiskey all the time. It must have Canadian and whiskey. And I think there's another spelling thing going on, but I'm not sure. And I think they're going to turn around and say, okay, Australia, you've had your fun, but you're starting to eat our profit, so now you're going to have to change your name. And we had to do that with our wines because the French arced up.
Yes,
because
the
French were
Europeans
getting their asses kicked
Yeah.
in the competitions by the Australians.
Yeah.
And they weren't happy. And the Americans helped the French because the Americans were getting their ass kicked by the Australians as well. And they weren't happy. And so they arced up. And now they have to, we have to call it different stuff. For a while, we were allowed to say like a Pinot Noir, like a Champagne. We call it now Australian Sparkling.
There's all these
Australian
rules around
Sparkling.
stuff,
And that's Australian Champagne.
So also, I'm sorry, I want to answer Saf's questions here. The sticky toffee apple you can only get through the Starwood site. I just looked it up. They still have it. It's about $140 a bottle. It is a very unique whiskey. I think that's bad language to call something very unique. It is
unique.
It's just unique. It is a very good quality thing, and I have to admit, just by itself, it's great. I thought they were overstating the toffee apple thing, but when I did an old fashioned, and because I'd made my own apple sugar syrup, fuck me, it was just really brought the apple out, and fuck me, it was good. Josephine, hello.
Hello, Josephine.
Yeah, Kirsten, I think there's the Agreement Australian Whiskey, and it seems to, I feel like the major distilleries are going
you're right.
to...
I think we'll have the E because we're more Scots than Irish.
In the current market, I think the big distilleries are going to come together and say, okay, if we're going to market something as Australian whiskey, it has to meet this standard. And also that one with the E in the brackets, the recent release from Archie Rose, where Kirsten works, there's a guy who worked on the floor. His name is Good with an E on the end. And he made a mistake because Archie Rose make a single malt and they make a rye whiskey, and he accidentally mixed the single malt and the rye. And apparently it was hundreds of liters of top grade whiskey that he might have ruined. and he fucked up. He's now an official distiller, but he was just like working on the floor, and he made a mistake when he mixed these things, and it could have been a disaster. But then the head distillers tasted it and went, "This is actually pretty good," and so they released.
And if we put this and put this, and do this, it'll be top.
So they released it, and I've got it, and it's called Good Whiskey, with an E in brackets after good, because the guy's name was Good, and the E in brackets in whiskey. And it's really fucking nice. But again, the story is awesome, that this dude literally made a mistake that could have ruined hundreds of liters of whiskey, which was tens of thousands of dollars worth of whiskey. But they tasted it and went, you know what? I like this. Josephine, you like my hair?
Yeah.
This is my COVID hair. I've not had many haircuts during COVID, and I've stopped coloring my hair as well. So I get trims. So in the last 2.5 years, I've had 3 trims of my hair.
Bloody
it's good. See, it's good, the name with an E. So the whiskey is called Good Whiskey. It's Good bracket E, whiskey bracket E in there. And it's fucking nice. So yeah, at some point, dude, when you are more mobile, here's the fun thing. I want to do this with someone. I want to get, I don't know, because I've got, 12 or more whiskeys there. But I want to get a bunch of incredibly different whiskeys and put them at little mini drams in shot glasses and say, okay, there's the line of things. This is how these whiskeys are described. We are now blind tasting from these little mini shots, and we're going to try and say which one is which. Personally, I think I will be very bad at matching them up in a blind tasting.
Okay. I wonder how I go with my
get
dentures.
A Scotch and an Irish and an American and 3 or 4 Australian whiskies, and just in a blind taste, look at the descriptions on the bottles and try and work out which one it is you're tasting. I think I'll be really bad at it myself. No.
Every time you mention this, I've got to have something to drink because I'm freaking out.
Oh my fucking God. Sorry.
I'll tell you my story now.
Yeah, do it.
I'll tell you my story now. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Vietnam War.
Okay.
That's where all this came from. So Vietnam War's been going for a while. Australia's been involved since, 1966.
Yeah.
And it's coming up for 1969.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, by this time, Long Tan has happened. And
which was one of the more significant Australian engagements in the Vietnam War.
It was a clusterfuck on both sides, okay?
Yeah.
Everyone has admitted that.
Except the Americans, who want to say it wasn't as big a deal as the Australians say, because the Americans don't want anyone but themselves to get the glory.
Well, the Americans dropped bombs from Phantoms and missed their targets. Yeah. They will never admit they missed their targets, and the Australians won't say they missed their targets. It did scare the Vietnamese, because the Vietnamese thought they were coming back, but they didn't. Anyway, a Vietnamese division was on its way somewhere else. Yeah? The division commander noticed this Australian firebase, Long Tan, and they said, we'll just eat this on the way. We're a fucking division. We will eat this fucking Australian firebase, which was one of our bigger ones. Yeah?
Yeah.
Because remember, there weren't a lot of Australians, and there aren't a lot of Australians. Okay?
Yeah.
And it started.
So I just want to say, no, I think Kirsten's saying she's going to sleep because she is suffering with COVID and whatnot. So I want to say
Kirsten,
no,
we
nice
love
to
you, and you have the best one, okay? And I have rude thoughts about you all the time.
Yeah.
So come back to
Dude.
Melbourne soon, will you? With your
Sorry,
husband.
dude. I'm
Party
just
time.
having occasional sips of the old fashioned I made with the Archie Rose red gum smoked. Oh, fucking hell, dude! At some point, you have to come over, and we have to have
We have to
mad
have
fucking
a couple of those.
whiskey, mad fucking whiskey tastings.
So, basically, this division came through and said, "Oh, we'll just eat this fucking base." Now, I'm not going to go into it, but it was full on. There's a good movie on Netflix about it called Enemy Close. It's actually a very good
Long Tan Danger Close. Yeah, no, it's actually a good one. Because sometimes
historical
Australian filmmakers make films where the head goes up their arse, and the film about Kokoda, that was where the people's head went up their ass. But the Long Tan Danger Close movie, fucking good. Really
well,
good.
they had a lot of the guys.
And there's a doco. The same people who made the film, which was a dramatization, did a doco, which is interviews with the surviving veterans of
who they
Long
got
Tan.
to advise.
Yeah. Yes.
In Long Tan.
So it's a good double. The doco and the fictional feature film are a good double.
They also had the VC that were there. So the Australian veterans and the VC that were there could tell the story together. And they were talking together about, well, where were you? I was over there. Oh, we were shooting at one another. And the BBC were going, I know, I saw you, dude. I think we can both agree it was a fucked day. We can. So this division came through, and then we're going to eat this forward fire base. Now, the Vietnamese tactic was to grab the tiger by the belt.
Because the artillery was too effective.
The artillery was very effective, and the bombing from the planes was very effective. If you're really close to the enemy can't fucking fire artillery at you, and they can't bomb you with planes. Now, the Australians had with them the New Zealander artillery guys. And they basically told, I'm really compressing the story here, okay?
Yes.
The whole thing started with an Australian fucking up and shooting his rifle in the middle of the night accidentally, which is a major fuck up. That is a major fuck up in the Australian Army. And he got disciplined harshly, as you can see in the film. If you watch the film, you can see how harshly he was disciplined. The guy who was basically in charge of the infantry was sort of on loan from the SAS, and he basically treated and trained his guys as SAS and expected that behaviour from them. One of the lines is, so it's sleeves down, do as you're told, and do better than you think you can. And so they basically had to learn all the call signs. They had to learn all the tricks. They had to learn, and they trained every day. Now, here's the thing: in Australia, when you stand to, you go to the edge of the firebase where your entrenchments or cover is, and you hold your rifle out and you look. You do this at dawn and dusk because that's the time to attack, at dawn and dusk. It's hard to see, and if you're moving and you've got a stationary target, they're easy to hit, and if they're moving, it's harder to hit. So the Americans, when they stand to, they go to the edge and they fire off pretty much 4 or 5 clips and 50 or 60 artillery out of every gun. So they're basically saying, hey, everyone, we're over here. Australians don't do that because they think that's counterintuitive. So these Vietnamese turned up and went, okay, we're going to eat these guys. And they attacked. Now, what happened bizarrely was there was a little Patty who was Chrissy Amplett's auntie.
Sorry, where did Chrissy Amplet come into Vietnam?
Well, she did.
She's our age. Oh no, sorry, she's older than us. Okay, she's dead.
And she's dead.
Well.
She did.
Yeah.
She did troop tours.
She did. No, okay. Also, Long Tan, Little Patty that was a big thing. Little Patty and some
was a huge star.
Little Patty and Paul Joy were doing a concert, and they could hear artillery and machine gun fire in the background.
It was happening, right? And while this battle started to get a bit hot, they got helicopters in and got them the fuck out of there, right? And then the battle heated up a lot, and it was danger enemy close. And the Vietnamese did what they do, which was grab hold of the tiger's belt.
Yes.
And then the Australians told the New Zealanders, I want you to fire 20 metres ahead of me.
Position. On my position.
On my position.
5 or 10 metres ahead of my position.
Yeah. Right? No further than 20 metres in front of me. And the New Zealanders said, I can't fucking do that. I'll kill you. And the Australians said, if you don't do that, we're going to fucking die.
So the New Zealand radio. There's an actual recording of a radio communique where the guy says, "Drop it on this position," and the artillery person says, "I will kill you if I do that." And the response is, "I'm dead if you don't do it." And they were dropping artillery like just over
their heads.
Drop artillery just over there. It's
and so the New Zealanders said to themselves, right, and this isn't recorded very well, but the New Zealanders said to themselves, okay, guys, we cannot fuck this up. This must be accurate. This must be right on. This must be the best artillery fire ever, right? And they were dropping artillery. I'm also going to
kind of throw in there, no one trusted Americans to do this with precision, but Australians and New Zealanders trusted each other to do this with precision.
This is where this story is going.
Yeah.
This is where the story is going. So the New Zealanders dropped this artillery between 5 and 20 metres ahead of the Australians. And the Vietnamese were going, the fuck?
Because they literally didn't believe people would call in a strike just an arm's length from their own position.
What are you fucking doing? This is dumb. And they had small cannon and machine guns set up and fucking artillery fire hitting them. And they were going, the fuck? And then they ran out of bullets. The Australians ran out of bullets. And then the RAAF helicopters, against orders, took shitloads of ammo and overweighted their helicopters and went over their positions and tipped the helicopters sideways again against orders. And ammo boxes were raining down on their position, much to the grateful grateful thanks.
I swear to God, there were actually little squadrons that were reduced to between 3 and 12 guys, and they were fighting people who were like 1 meter to 3 meters away from. It was just fucking
It was just
weird.
retarded. It's fucked up. It's just totally fucked up. The Vietnamese were unsettled by this. They just went, this is not going the way we expected it to. We are a division. These guys, we now know, are a battalion, and we've wiped out a lot of them.
Yeah.
This is not going.
The Vietnamese forces were 10 to 100 times larger than the Australian forces. They were
at
fighting.
all times. At all
it was just,
times.
It was
the commander.
There was never another engagement like this as well, because the one thing the Vietnamese learned was like, oh, if you back Australian forces into a corner, just walk away. Just fucking walk away.
Again, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay. So then the rain came down. No one likes fighting in the rain. The bullets dropped out of the helicopters.
Yeah.
The bullets were in cases, not in clips.
Yeah.
And they had to take the bullets out of the cases and put them in clips and put a tracer round in every third to fifth clip. So there were guys not fighting, just making clips up and throwing them at guys, right?
Absolutely.
These days, there's protocols for that because of that, right? Ammunition doesn't make it to the base without actually being in clips. The boxes are all set up, so there's all clips now, and they're all set up early. And they still fucking drop boxes out of helicopters. This time they put little parachutes on them, though, so they don't actually fall on people's heads. Mind you, must need some devil drives.
Yes, it's weird. War is a weird thing where the normal standards don't apply.
So then what happened was the New Zealanders did their trick again. The VC are going, this is getting more fucked than we expected.
Yeah.
The commander of the Vietnamese is sending more guys in, and he has so far sent in, he's getting reports back that 350 of his guys are dead, that 500 of his guys are wounded. He is now basically down to half strength of his division, which is on its way by orders of Ho Chi Minh to somewhere else.
Yes.
He's starting to go, I'm not having a good day.
Yes.
And it's not going how I thought it would go.
Yeah.
Then what happened was the armoured personnel carriers, which had 25 to 30 millimeter cannons in them, turned up and started spraying the place with cannon fire. And the Australians, who were pretty much still alive at this point, grabbed their wounded and jumped into the personnel carriers, which then rolled forward behind the still firing New Zealanders. And the VC went, you know what? I'm having a fucked day.
This turned into a not good day.
I've had enough, And the commanders on the ground called in and said, we recommend a tactical retreat in good order. Otherwise, it'll be
engage with these motherfuckers.
Otherwise, it'll be a bad order retreat. It'll be a chaotic order retreat because it's really not working. And so the commander of the VC said, get out. And they went. Body count in the morning apparently was pretty rough. So from then, the division of VC got to where Ho Chi Minh wanted them, and Ho Chi Minh said, where's your division? Well, this thing happened.
Yeah, we bumped into this bunch of Australians in an apple orchard, and then shit went south. Yeah.
An apple orchard and a rubber plantation. Apple orchard.
I thought it was a rubber plantation. Yes, you're right.
No,
You're right.
there was an apple orchard and a rubber plantation.
Yeah, it was farmland, basically.
It was fucked. It was wildly fucked, right?
It was wildly fucked, and it was just, the thing is, most of the Australian officers actually did get killed. My favorite thing, there was a doco of interviews with the surviving Anzac troops, because they're Australian and New Zealanders. And my favorite bit when I watched this documentary of the people who survived, like when various people got killed, it's like, oh, the lieutenant just got fucking shot. And one guy in Australia, he said, I just went, who the fuck is in charge now? Because he was a corporal or a sergeant, and someone looked at him and said, you, and he went, okay, cool. We're all gonna fucking die. If I'm in charge, we're all gonna fucking die.
And he was a corporal, and he ended up being the left bank, the left flank commander.
Yeah, and again, the Kiwis who were running the artillery didn't know if anyone was still alive. Their last communique was drop shells here, and it wasn't until another platoon went forward and they actually found the survivors of the first group, and they went, oh God, you guys are actually still alive. We didn't know if you were still here. It's just like,
and then the New Zealanders kept on doing their thing, and then they ran out of shells. Yeah. And the New Zealanders said, moment of embarrassment. Yeah. We're not going to give you any more artillery support. And the Australians are going, why? And they said, we've run out of shells.
Yeah.
And they went, awkward. And then the armoured personnel carriers turned up and started fucking spraying.
Yeah, the APCs were the big thing, where all the surviving infantry were just like, I'm just going to stand next to the APC while it
or get in it.
A lot of them had to run alongside it. It's just like, I will just fucking stand here. It's got heavy machine guns, and
they had
it might be a bullet magnet, but I'm just going to hide behind it while we get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they had 25 and 30 millimeter cannons, and they were really pumping these things into the rubber plantation. And the VC went, okay, enough. We're out of here. So this division, half a division, and a lot of wounded, turn up to where Ho Chi Minh is waiting for them. Yeah. And needs a division, and because he's about to launch a major attack against an American base. Yeah. And the division is effectively at quarter strength, and he loses his fucking mind. He just fucking goes.
I think the order was, don't ever do that again. If you back Australians into a corner, don't do it.
What Ho Chi Minh said is, he said, these Australians are so small in number that they can hold effectively a postage stamp.
Yeah.
When you engage, do not engage with Australians. Leave them alone.
Yeah.
What can they do? What can they hold?
Yeah.
They can hold a land as big as a farm.
Yeah.
It's the Americans that are the problem.
People. Yeah.
Right? They're the ones with the fucking stuff and the fucking people. The Australians just fucking roll around in nasty patrols hurting people. Fucking leave them the fuck alone. And if you see them, get out of the fucking way. Yeah. They'll go through, they won't do anything, and they'll go back to their base and shut up.
Yeah.
And so that was the new order. And
don't engage them. Yeah.
So the Australians were then in the habit of going out on these search and destroy patrols. And their trick was to not put on deodorant or cologne or anything like that, and not shower for 3 days before they went out. They weren't to smoke for half a day before they went out. They weren't to smoke on patrol. They were to walk. They had their boots were changed because they had hobnail boots to start with. Their boots were changed into what we would call Blundstones, and the rubber was basically changed into what we would call Doc Martens. So they were quiet as they went through, and they were all hand signals, or if they spoke, it was because someone was about to shoot at them, or they'd stepped on a landmine. A lot of the landmines were bouncing Bettys. The bouncing Bettys were left by the Americans. And when you have a minefield, you mark it. Yeah. The idea is it's a denial weapon.
Don't walk through here.
Don't walk here. There's landmines everywhere. Don't come through here. But the Americans didn't mark their landmines. They just put them down. And so the guys would click, fuck, I want a bouncing Betty. And they have to stay there. And the idea is you have to put a knife under his foot on the trigger, and then you have to dig around the bouncing Betty, and you have to pull the primer out, and it's a pain in the ass, but it stops you for half an hour, making you a stationary target. And the VC knew this very well.
And for those who don't know what a bouncing Betty was, also known as a jumping jack, it was a mine that didn't just detonate if you trod on it. It ejected an explosive thing up to about waist length and essentially ball length, crotch length, and then did a lateral shrapnel burst. Very unpleasant. You don't want that.
It was meant to wound. The idea
because
of a wounded soldier.
Person takes up multiple personnel to keep them away. A dead person, no one needs to look after them. A wounded person takes up multiple personnel to keep them alive. So these various mines were designed to give you a really fucked injury.
They're now banned pretty much all over the world.
Because they're fucked. Stuff that blows your balls off is bad.
And children are still stepping on them.
Oh, yeah. All through
Southeast Asia.
It's not just Southeast Asia. All through Africa, Southeast Asia, unexploded ordnance is fucking... And people are trying to start a farm on it, and they plow a field, and some ordnance that was left behind fucking explodes when they're trying to plant crops in a field.
There's a group of ex-Australian soldiers who basically go to Laos and Cambodia.
Yeah.
And what they do is they disarm mines on farms and playgrounds.
It's fucked. It's fucked.
And
what us in the West have done in various theaters of operation is
and they
fucked.
train locals to do it.
Oh God, did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Mimsy saying hello. Dude, it's 11 o'clock. So
I'll just very quickly
you, my friend, have lasted. Finish your story.
So what used to happen was the Australians used to hide from the Americans because they used to go through on patrol with fucking boom boxes, stinking of cologne and shouting at one another. Thanks for having me, Greg.
The legend is you, AZ. I just want to throw that out.
It's very nice.
Greg is a nice guy. Yeah.
And basically, they used to go through the jungle making so much fucking noise that the Australians would hide from them. And it was never official, but they were kind of, it was the thing. Don't be where the Americans are because the VC will shoot you. So they would hide from them. Anyway, so this patrol hears this American patrol go through and they find cover very quickly and they jump into this cover and they find a VC patrol hiding in the same cover.
Yeah.
And they're looking at one another going, awkward. should we just stay here till the Americans go away? And they did. They sort of sat there. And were
Yeah,
quiet.
you just stay there till the barrage stops. Yeah.
And then the Americans went away, and they sort of went, "I'm going to go this way," and the VC went, "Yeah, I'm going to go this way," and they went, "Yep." They all just backed off and went away.
Yeah, and the number of times
Unbelievable.
that happens in war, the people on opposite sides go, we got the gun on each other. Okay, either one of us could die, or we could just back away.
Walk away. Because I don't
Just-
have any fight with
just
you.
walk
It's the
away.
bosses. The bosses are having the fucking fight.
Yeah.
We don't need to be here. You know, it's like, yeah, let's just fuck up. Let's not and say we did. And so
I just did this random thing where it's like my cocktail skewer, I jammed it into a block of ice. I said, I've got an ice block.
yeah.
No,
So
just-
basically, that's what happened after Long Tan. Gough Whitlam then came in 1972 and said, "No,
get the fuck out of here." Yeah.
it was the first action. It was his first actual policy. He said, "Get every Australian out of Vietnam immediately."
Yeah.
And they did. They got them on planes, and they were out of there in a week.
Years.
It was
There's
a week. They were all gone.
There are two good movies if you want to look at how fucked the Vietnam War was. From the Americans' perspective, I think the best one, it's actually, for all his flaws, it's a Mel Gibson film called We Were Soldiers. And it's based on a book written by American Colonel Hal Moore, We Were Soldiers Once and Young. Hal Moore is a colonel who didn't take bullshit, and he was the commanding officer in the first major conflict, the first major official conflict between American forces and Vietnamese forces. And it's very interesting because both the commanding officer on the American side, Hal Moore, and the Vietnamese side, they were extraordinarily good tacticians. And Hal Moore had armaments and artillery on his side. The Vietnamese general had numbers on his side. He had sheer numbers on his side. And they were both excellent tacticians.
Eventually, the really clever tacticians on the ground, the colonels and the generals on the ground, basically said, "Guys, the Vietnamese have nowhere to go.
Yeah,
They are home. They have nowhere to go."
That was Hal Moore's line after this first major engagement that the Americans painted as a success, and they said, "We're going to drive these little commies away." And Hal Moore says, "They're already home. What the fuck do you think is going to happen? They have nowhere to go. This is their home.
You know, they're going to fight forever. They fought the French for 50 years.
Yeah.
And no one read a history book. And
the CIA and the political and military command didn't understand. Hal Moore tried to tell them, they're home. You said you're going to drive them. Dude, this is where they live. This is what the fuck? This is their home. What the fuck?
They can't go anywhere.
If you want to understand how fucked the Vietnam War was, We Were Soldiers is a good movie, and Long Tan Danger Close is a good movie. We Were Soldiers is an American viewpoint. Danger Close is an Australian viewpoint. But the whole thing was the NVA, the VC and whatnot, that was their home. They were defending their home.
Yeah.
And like, you are up against a fucking wall when you are the invading force.
It wasn't like the Second World War where you could force the Germans back to Germany.
Yeah, because you're pushing them back to Germany.
It wasn't like the First World War where you're forcing the Germans back to Germany. Right? It wasn't like the Cold War where you were stopping the Russians coming out of Russia, right? They were home. They had...
You were the invader.
They had nowhere to go.
SAFA, NVA, North Vietnamese Army. In the Vietnam War, us being American allies, we had two opponents: the NVA, which was the North Vietnamese army, the Viet Cong, who were a guerrilla army. So
the Viet Cong
the
were
VC and the NVA were technically different.
VC were more special forces.
And they were guerrilla fighters.
NVA were the farm dogs. They were the guys who were given guns and basic training.
Yes, talking about your
go home. You're too good for your home. Exactly,
dude.
Exactly.
It's 11. Okay, again, you AD, my man, you have fucking soldiered on, because I thought maybe you were only going to last 20 minutes or something, but we have had a fucking excellent evening. Fucking love you, brother, and I'm so glad that you were here.
I'm so glad to be back at work. I cannot tell you how much fun it is to be back at work. I cannot tell you how fucking good it is to be back at work.
Yeah. So hopefully
again
soon.
Waiting for this for fucking months.
Yeah.
I am in excruciating pain right now. I could talk for another hour. But
I think we both need to look after ourselves and fucking retire for the evening.
I think
same as last night. I did Friday night party night. I have not.
I wanted to do that, but I was so down. Something bad happened to me yesterday, and I'm still down today. And then I picked it up, but something so. Because remember, I called you up and said, "Are we working tonight?" And then didn't show. It's because something really, really bad happened, and I was just devastated. And then I tonight went, no, I'm going to do it.
Because dude, I went till 2 a.m. last night, and I was still wide awake, and I was not absolutely fucking shit faced drunk. I could have kept going, but it was like, you know what? It's 2 a.m. Go to bed, motherfucker. I've not done that for ages because, again, I've been kind of protecting myself, and I've been going for 2 to 4 hours on a Friday night. But last night it was just like, you know what? I'm feeling good. And I did a 6-hour stream last night. And it was just like,
awesome. I want to do that with you again.
We'll do it again another day. Tonight's been good.
Not tonight,
but it's
but
11.
We'll do it again.
Both of it should go to bed.
And would you please get Dr. Abigail to get in touch with me, because we've got to get together, because I've got to show her some stuff. Yeah,
no, we got you to do. But I have no idea. Tomorrow or Sunday? I'll do a Sunday. Shit, we'll keep in touch. Shit might happen for the next episode. Who knows? We are now bowing out while we are still super functional.
Yeah.
Rather than going till we're falling over and fucked, we're going to bow out while we're actually still super functional. So maybe we'll be able to do stuff on Sunday.
Love you all. Thank you so much for letting me be on your device. You should subscribe on Angry, because he's nice.
Oh, fuck subscribing, man. It's just our fam who are already here. If you're not already subscribed, I don't want to say I hate you, but, you know, maybe I hate you.
All right.
But anyway, I'm getting pancakes for brunch tomorrow. Mrs. Angry's going to make some pancakes.
Oh, nice.
Which is another thing, you know, sometime in the future you might be able to go over for pancake brunch. But anyway, we're going to fucking sign out now while we're still kind of compos mentis. See you fantastic folk another time. It was a truly exceptional thing to see you, AZ. And
thank you.
Folk in the chat,